Hi, everybody. It's episode 374 of PodQuest.
Hey.
It's, what is it? It's Wednesday, October 13th, 2021. I am Chris. With me is Droo.
Hello.
And Walnut.
Hi, I'm here.
How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, okay.
In the words of what I'm posting on Instagram right now, I'm feeling like a Snorlax today.
You both sound just tired and drained today.
I am nasally congested for some fucking reason again. Like, this
Allergy
is
season, buddy.
but it shouldn't, probably, no. But like, still, this is, like, I'm so mad about it.
This time of year sucks.
Every, 3 weeks now, I'm getting sick. Like, two brosés in a row that we recorded, I couldn't drink because I was sick. And we might be recording brosé again either Friday or something. I might not be able to record. And depending on how sick I am, if I'm still feeling like shit, I might not be able to do what I have planned on Saturday, which is frustrating.
Do you take any allergy medicine?
I take Walgreens brand Claritin, Walton.
All right, so and you got a sinus infection last time, right?
Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna send you a picture later when I have the bottle nearby because I'm not sure where it is right now. Mm-hmm. Of this is what the doctor gave me, and it's over the counter. It's a nasal spray for allergy season. I started taking it 2 or 3 years ago. I haven't had a sinus infection since. I was getting 2 sinus infections a year because of my allergies. Also, the over the counter Claritin brand stuff usually isn't very good. I don't know if it would work any better for you. I get the I try to get the store brand when they have it, but I get the Allegra D 12 hour that is sold behind the pharmacy. Mm-hmm. The store brand is usually a lot cheaper, and it's almost never in stock, at least at CVS.
Yeah.
But if you can get the store brand, it's fine too. But don't ever do the 24 hour. Even the pharmacists have said the 24 hour does not work as well.
Yeah,
which is the dumbest fucking thing.
Which that's what I have. I have 70 tablets of a 24 hour Walgreens brand Claritin. It started to set on yesterday, and as far as I can remember, I've been taking my allergy medicine every day. Might have missed a day or 2 or 3, but
a day or 2 or 3.
But my doctor was like, you don't have to take it every day, but just take it when things are getting bad. And so things were fine, and then I just when my alarm goes off to take it, I'll take it. If I'm around it, but if I'm out or whatever, I won't even remember. I won't even think about it because it's 24 hours. So missing a day or 2 isn't that bad, but it's turning out probably is.
Yeah, and that's I have taken the 24 hour Allegra version of it, and it maybe actually works for 2 hours, and then it barely works. But for whatever reason, the 12 hour actually works. Depending on how bad that day is, pollen or ragweed or whatever is hitting you. I usually get anywhere from 8 to 12 hours out of it. And if I, time it right, I'll take it, a little bit later in the morning, and it'll last me until, I'm ready for bed. And I usually take Benadryl before bed because Allegra I have trouble sleeping on. But, Benadryl knocks me the fuck out, so I don't want to take that during the day.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I found the bottle sitting on the shelf, so I'll send you a picture of the nasal spray. Like I said, I have not had a sinus infection in, 2 or 3 years since I started taking it, after having them twice a year every year.
Yeah. I mean, when I get sinus infections is usually when I miss, a week of allergy medicine.
Yeah, this is just easy because it's just 2 quick puffs in your nose once a day, and that's it. Mm-hmm. You just do it in the morning. While you're pooping, just grab the thing off the counter and just puff, and you're done.
Yeah,
I
was going to say, I also use a nasal spray, and it usually helps.
I have, an ocean, it's a saline spray. In my cabinet, but it's I'm stuffed up. I'm not congested because everything's swollen. I'm congested because I'm stuffed up.
Yeah, but that then turns into...
Yeah, it'll turn into a sinus infection if I don't take care of it fast enough.
Yeah, and so that's what this stuff does. It's an actual allergy spray, so it helps keep that congestion from happening. So then you don't end up getting the sore throat and the sinus infection and the pressure and all that fun stuff. 'Cause I've been dealing with that for 30 years. It's the fucking worst. It's this time of year and it's in the spring every fucking year. And it's gotten to the point where if I remember to do the nasal spray as long as like allergy stuff isn't too bad, I can get through days without even having to take Allegra. It's really just like if it's high enough that my eyes are starting to get itchy that I have to take something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it might help you. It might not. You might still just get sick. You might just have a bad immune system. Who knows?
I mean, it might be. It might be that.
But Rich, what's on the agenda tonight?
On the agenda tonight, we're going to have a small little quick discussion about some strange thing called a convention. Then we are going to talk about our book club. We are moving that up. Instead of at the end, we're going to do it at the beginning of Formula 1 Drive to Survive Season 3. We're going to probably have a fairly lengthy discussion about Metroid Dread, as me and Cobb both played it. And then some talk about PGA Tour 2K21, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and the pick for next book club. Yeah.
Though I will probably do the pick for next book club after we finish talking about book club.
That, you know what, that makes sense.
Yeah. I see. I see where your head was with that. So, but.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what the maybe. No, okay.
Oh yeah, no. The maybe thing is I might pitch you guys on an anime that is not book club related.
I mean, that sounds like a book club idea.
It's not actually out yet. Like it's still airing.
Okay.
So it would take, I don't know if it's a 12 or 24 or I don't even know how many episodes the season is. Like only episode 2 came out today.
Yeah. What is this of this that you can tell us of this land of New York Comic-Con? Did I say that right?
It was close enough.
Okay.
You have a weird accent, but you were close. Yeah. So New York Comic-Con happened in person for real again.
How was it?
It was weird. That's the easiest way to put it. It was weird. So I think I mentioned this previously, but similar to like the concert venues and stuff like that in Philly, they require vaccination if you are old enough to be vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
If you are too young to be vaccinated, you have to have a COVID test negative result in the last 72 hours prior to the show. They had it set up pretty well for it. When you got there, if you're going all 4 days, because it's Thursday to Sunday, they actually had a couple of days set up beforehand. I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday that you could go to a site ahead of time and get your wristband to show that you had your vaccine and whatnot. And they were using. Are you guys familiar with the Clear app for like vaccinations and stuff like that?
No.
Yeah, so it's actually really cool. Rite Aid sent me a link for this a while ago. Also, it lets you load in confirmation of your vaccine status.
Mm-hmm.
So it basically becomes a digital copy of your vaccinations, and you can add in boosters and everything also.
Yeah.
But events can actually set it up where you can authorize it through there, and it makes the check-in for them to verify quicker because all they have to see is that your screen is green. And there's a QR code they can scan too if they need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have to actually so Drew, I mean, you'll be familiar because you just did it a bunch of times. Like they don't have to look at your vaccine card and then also look at your ID to like make sure it matches. The app just has a picture of your face on it and it's green, so they know that you are allowed to go into the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool way of doing that, all things considered.
Okay.
But so if you weren't going all 4 days and you couldn't go early to get it done, basically across the street from the convention center, they had a setup with just a bunch of tents that you walk in one side of it, you walk up to a tent that has somebody open, they check your record, they give you I don't know what the little thing on this is, but they don't give like the paper wristbands that you normally get at like concerts and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they just cut their lanyards from last year that said Read Pop in half and then put this weird little clinched thing on there that was almost so it could only go one direction, almost like a zip tie. So when you pull it up, it tightens, but you can't pull it down to loosen it. You have to just cut it off when you're done. But this way it's not paper, so it's not just getting like ruined and it like ripped off or anything if you're showering over those 4 days. It was a good idea.
Okay.
And it was nice and quick and smooth to get all that done. The problem is, once you get into the convention, nobody was really being strict about like masks and stuff like that. Like people were wearing them, but there was nobody on. I saw plenty of people without masks on, and nobody on staff was saying anything. It's like if you're going to have a mask policy, and it's not like a concert where everyone is packed together and you can't enforce it, fucking enforce it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, like, I kind of figured that like, mask wearing would be very not minimal, but, like, that would be, like, the point of, like, contention there, because there's gonna be those people who are at Comic-Con and are only wearing a mask because they're told they have to, and not because it's the smart thing to do.
Yeah, and there's plenty of
like,
people that are just wearing it across their mouth like an asshole, too.
Yeah. So as soon as they get a chance to duck away from staffers, they're going to take it off. And then they're going to keep it off until somebody says something. And you went on Sunday. So probably by Sunday, staff was just over it.
That's true. I have no idea what it was like Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. It was still really crowded. It was noticeably less crowded for a Sunday than it has in the past. So,
yeah.
Past years when we've gone up, and it's hard to tell if the aisles on the show floor were spaced out a little bit more, or if there were just less people, but it seemed like less people.
Yeah.
But we were generally able to go up and down the aisles without too much issue, whereas in previous years, you couldn't. Like, there were aisles when you get towards, like, the one side of the convention center floor that you just can't get up and down because of the way that they're so close together, and people just stop and stand in the middle of the aisle like fucking assholes.
Of course.
Yeah,
or like stopping at somebody for a picture in the middle of the aisle, and rather than like going off to the side to take the picture, they all just spread out to take it right in the middle of the fucking aisle.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Artist Alley was definitely bigger though. Like they put that in a larger area and they spread them out more. So like between the aisles there was more space. And it seemed like between most of the tables, there was a little bit more space. That might have just been like an illusion because of how much more space there was like in the aisles in general, though.
I mean, they probably had less vendors and so made more space. They probably plotted it out properly to where, like, all right, we're not going to have as many people, so we're going to expand more, maybe, like, make it so that there's more walking room and ways for people to get around.
Yeah, they definitely had less in Artist Alley. And you can tell that just based on there were a lot of empty tables on Sunday that didn't look like anyone had really been at them.
Mm-hmm.
And the show floor though seemed pretty packed. Like the actual show floor seemed like it was pretty normal. Like I said, I think there might have just been less people based on the vaccine requirements, and you couldn't buy passes unless you had fan registered for a previous year. So like if neither of you guys have ever gone, so you would not have been able to get badges this year.
Yeah.
I don't even think that like I could have purchased them for you unless you paid like an extra fee to also register, if that makes sense. They did something they always do a thing where if you were registered the year before, you actually get first shot at buying badges. And when you buy badges, you actually have to assign them to a person. So like when I buy badges for me and Erica also has to have like an account with them that I can assign her badge to.
Okay.
This year, it's basically if you didn't have badges last year or in 2019, you couldn't just buy them for this year, and you couldn't register for this year either. But they had some sort of payment tier where you could basically enroll in a program, and that would let you buy a ticket for this year. But you're spending more money on top of the ticket prices are way higher than they used to be. Like not just over like the last year, like 5 years ago, it was like $65 for a weekend. Now it's $65 for a Sunday ticket.
Damn.
Yeah. Like it's getting to the point where it's not worth going anymore. Not as a fan. Like the creators and stuff like that, they seem to make tons of money because there's just so many people. But like if you want to, they don't sell 4-day passes anymore. You have to buy every badge individually. And if you do try to go for all 4 days, that's like $200. That's over $200 because there's no discount for them, and plus there's like the fees and all. So I think Thursday is the only one that's not 65 because it's such a short day. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday are all $65 passes.
And, I think I actually like that it's all separate days and there's no one weekend pass because this convention gets sold out so quickly and it is so tight because the Javits Center is tiny as shit that, like, it's good to let new people show up every day. So it sucks that every day is the same price at $65, Sunday or Saturday, like Sunday or Friday, when there's probably different things happening each day, but I like the idea that, like, okay, you can't go all weekend unless you shove out $300, which then, fine, you kind of deserve to go all weekend because you paid all that money, but maybe let people who haven't been able to go in the past, because it's sold out, be able to go since there's not as many people going all weekend.
If it worked out that way, that would actually probably be less shitty. But what ends up happening is they do like the virtual queue when you go to buy passes. So their website's always broken. And when you get in there to buy passes, you get put in the queue for, an hour. And then by the time you get in there, it's kind of like the PlayStation stuff. By the time you get in there, all the Saturday and Friday passes are gone. Or at least Saturday. Saturday sells out first because everything worth doing is on Saturday.
Yeah.
Also, people don't have to request off work to go on just the Saturday, or not as many people have to request off work. So, yeah. Of course.
Like I want to say in the past like 4 years, like not counting 2020, I have not had a Saturday pass simply because they sell out before I can purchase one. Which like that part of it sucks because there's no limit to what days you can buy. So when your thing comes up, I think you can buy like up to 5 passes for each day. You just have to be able to assign those passes to a person after you buy them.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's not a big deal. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of people that go in there and buy a bunch of passes for, like, friends and then, like, divvy them up.
Right.
But it's not a great system the way it ends up working. So, like, this year, because it's such a weird year, there weren't a lot of, like, big panels and stuff going on. Like, normally Marvel will be there with, like, something from, like, their TV division or whatnot. But, like, you had none of that. There was no TV stuff there at all, really, panel-wise. There were a few, like, pre-recorded things that you could go watch, like a pre-recorded Q&A. But most of that stuff was also on Saturday. Like, on Sunday, all the panels were, like, these weird workshop-y panels.
Yeah.
Which, like...
I think it was Friday, or probably Saturday, Critical Role debuted their intro for their show, and the date, and they had a pre-recorded, like, video to watch before it, like a Q&A or something to watch before it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And yeah, stuff like that just was not happening on Sunday. Unfortunately, Sunday was actually kind of a boring day. But like as far as like stuff to do there, and like one of the people that I would have actually loved to like have tried to meet was only doing signings on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
So, but other than it just being kind of weird and there just not being a lot going on, and a lot of that is just people not wanting to travel and studios not wanting to put people up like during this pandemic stuff, which is totally reasonable. There was more anime on the show floor than there was comics, which I thought was really funny. There were no comic book publishers on the show floor. Other Zenescope. Zenescope was the only comic book publisher on the show floor. Meanwhile, all of the spaces that were usually like your Marvel, your Image, your IDW, they were all anime and manga booths. So it was like Viz and Shonen Jump and Funimation and stuff had all these massive booths.
This convention started as New York Comic Con and Anime Festival.
Yeah, and
so like
2 years ago, the Anime Festival part was in another building down the street.
Yeah.
And now they have, I mean, it's not a Reed Pop run show, but there's Anime NYC in the Javits Center in November's now too. But I just thought it was funny that like it's New York Comic Con, there were no comic book publishers on the show floor.
Yeah, that's wild.
Which just goes to show like they're not sending their so Marvel's booth is usually just a giant stage. They do signings there with like casts from like TV shows. They do signings with like comic creators and stuff like that. It's not like a booth where they're selling shit. So, like, what good is having that sort of booth if those people don't want to travel right now? Or can't travel because they're busy filming stuff and risking COVID isn't worth not being able to film stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's not going to be a lot of good celebrity interactions at conventions for the upcoming months to years because of all those contractual obligations for...
Hey, Hayden Christensen is at, like, every convention this year.
I mean... He's $175 fucking dollars to get an autograph.
Is he? I didn't look at how much he costs.
That's what my buddy told me, because he was at Comic-Con on Saturday. And I texted him and told him, like, if it doesn't take too long and the line's not crazy, get me an autograph from Adam Savage. And he was like, it's $100. You got that? And I'm like, fuck that, no. And he's like, Hayden Christensen's $175. And I'm like, yeah, he's a bitch, though. Like... Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, no, a lot of the prices. So New York, like everything with New York Comic Con, is just more expensive than a lot of the other shows too.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were, so Baltimore was getting celebrities and stuff like that for a while, and so does like they renamed Wizard World to something. I forget what it is. But, like, Wizard World would also get your celebrities, and they were generally a little bit less expensive. But, like, yeah, $175 is just a lot for a fucking autograph. An autograph from behind plexiglass.
Yeah.
For somebody who hasn't done anything in 15 years.
Hey, it's only been 13 since Jumper. Thank you very much.
Really?
I think so. I think that was a 2008.
Yeah, that's like the most recent thing he's done.
I think he did a few, like, indie things since then. But, I mean, if I were him, like, I would have fucking gotten the fuck out of show business for a while, too. Like, he got treated like shit because he was in some poorly written movies.
He was in 2010, something called Tankers. 2010 as well, Quantum Quest, a Cassini Space Odyssey.
He did some stuff in, like, 2014, 15, 17,
2014.
18.
Apparently, he's playing Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Oh, yeah, did you not know that?
I think I did, but I just...
Yeah, I thought we talked about that once.
I think I did, but I just forgot about it on purpose.
Yeah, I don't hate Hayden Christensen. Like, I can't blame him for getting the fuck out of it, though. Like, the prequels were poorly written. Like, and, like, George Lucas is not a good director. Like, he tries to direct after everything's filmed in the editing booth. Like, numerous people have said that. That's why Empire is the better of the Star Wars original trilogy, because he didn't direct them.
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of his stuff to... Besides Star Wars and Jumper, never really watched anything Hayden Christensen, but I just thought he was very bad in Star Wars.
No, I mean, he was. But, like, other than like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor, wasn't everyone kind of bad in those Star Wars movies? Even Sam Jackson, not great in those Star Wars movies.
Yeah, especially not for Samuel L. Jackson. Like.
Yeah. Like, even he's just like, I'm getting a purple lightsaber and a paycheck. Like, the fuck do I care?
Yeah.
But a good thing that came out of New York Comic Con, they announced Saga's coming back.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are excited about this.
Dude, it's been almost 3 years. Or no, over 3 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The last issue 54, released in July of 2018. Issue 55 will release in January of 2022.
Well.
Yeah, it's been so fucking long. And so that book usually took hiatuses. It was like after every, like, 12-ish books or so, like basically like a chapter, they would take like a 3-month gap where they would work on the book, get kind of caught back up, and then start releasing them again. But then they announced after issue 54, which ended on a giant cliffhanger, that they would be taking an extended break. And then COVID and stuff also happened and all sorts of other things. And then 3 years later, the book is finally coming back, and I am very excited. It's also going to be double-sized, and it's still only $2.99, which is exciting.
It's good. It's good to hear.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we all watched a thing that Drew picked for our book club.
Yeah.
Drew, would you like to take it over?
Oh, I guess. So, yeah, I've gotten way into Formula One in the last few years, and Netflix has been doing a documentary series the last 3 years called Drive to Survive, and I heard super good things about this most recent season, and figured I would get us all into it.
So have you not watched the other seasons?
No, I had not.
Oh, okay. See, I thought you had, and you were just now watching this season.
No. I had watched, like, the first couple episodes.
Okay. That's fine. So yeah, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so did I, actually. Like, more than I expected to.
It's crazy, wasn't it? Like,
yeah,
the whole
like,
season.
I have a ton of notes that I took while watching it, of just things that I didn't understand.
Sure.
Because,
like, Rich, did you have any questions or anything, Rich?
No, I mean, I have comments. I'm not sure how you guys want to run this or drive this. I have comments on, like, favorite episodes, things like that, least favorite episodes and stuff, but, like, I don't have any major questions, because I do have a general understanding of motorsports. I grew up watching NASCAR, so although Formula One and NASCAR are two completely different worlds, there is still, like, ideas between the two that work, that are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I understand motorsports for the most part. That, like, I didn't have any questions when it came to the sport itself.
Okay, see, I don't know anything about it. Like, if it's not explicitly stated in Mario Kart, I've never fucking seen it before.
Uh-huh.
And, like, honestly, like, all I know about NASCAR is they make left-hand turns. Like,
there's a couple where they go right.
There's a couple,
right.
But like this was actually very like so I watched this past Sunday's actual race also.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Nice.
That was not nearly as interesting as the documentary.
Nah, not gonna lie. That race was relatively boring. Aside from the one battle between Hamilton and Perez on the one lap, the rest of that race was like, eh.
And like it was really just let's follow Hamilton the whole time because he's making moves.
Yeah.
But like there was also that other guy, I think he was Spanish, like that went from 19th to 8th.
Yeah,
and they just would they would just occasionally be like, oh yeah, and he has moved up to 8th from 19th. I'm like, then why are we focused on the guy that just moved up 3 fucking spots? This guy moved up 10.
Yeah.
But I get it, like Hamilton is like the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
they even said last season or during the series, which I don't know if he got like that he was the guy. Like he was probably I think he won last season.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
He basically seems like the Tom Brady of Formula One.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
he always wins, and if he doesn't win, he at least places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then also, if he doesn't win, he's probably complaining.
That, and like he seems like also kind of he doesn't care how something gets done. He's going to do it regardless of the consequences. Like there were a bunch of things in the documentary that, not a bunch, but the episode that focused on their team. There were several things where like he did, and it's like, well, he shouldn't have done it, and he just did it anyway because he just didn't care. Like he like exited like the pit lane too fast or something like that.
No, he was trying to take a practice start, and so what he did is the area to do a practice start is right at the end of the pit lane, but he went to the end, all the way to the end of the pit exit, which he shouldn't have done. It's not in the rule books that you're not allowed to do it. You're allowed to do it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like whenever they would interview him or show like his like past, like it seems like he's not like a shitty person.
No.
He just like he knows how to win, and he doesn't really care if he has to kind of like bend rules or screw over his teammates to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, which reminds me very much of Talladega Nights, where Ricky Bobby didn't care if Cal was always losing as long as he was always winning.
Right.
I thought that it was an interesting choice to give Hamilton his episode and not focus on him breaking the record like a few races later.
Well, if you think about it, they didn't really give him most of that episode. It was mostly the other guy on his team that was doing most of the interviews and that it seemed to be spotlighting.
But like they did focus and talk about him quite a bit in that episode, and it's like, oh, he could be breaking the record this race, and then he doesn't break it that race. And I thought it was interesting that they didn't like expand the episode to like one more race or till he breaks the record.
Yeah, I wonder if they didn't, because it seems like, and Drew, you can correct if I'm mistaken on this, but it seems like every episode focuses on a different team, but also it's like the next race in the thing for the most part.
That did seem how it was as it was going. It was like, okay, first race, this team, second race, this team, third race. It did bounce back a couple races at one point, but it did kind of go from team to team as the like main focus point of the episode, while obviously like all 20 drivers and everyone else involved get involved when it gets to race time. But
yeah, it's an interesting way to do a docuseries because like either they chose their production company to focus on these racers at each race and just got lucky with who they chose to focus on. For instance, with Gasly when he won, they got lucky that he won that race, or they have a large production crew that interviews all of the racers all of the time, and then they just have to pick and choose when it's best to put these together. Because if they do have a small team that picks all right, we're going to focus on this team during this race, then they got really lucky with some of the choices.
So I bet, I'm guessing here, I bet that they film all of the races throughout the year. They do some of the interviews when they're actually when they're obviously at the races, but all of those other interviews where they're definitely not at the races, I think are done afterwards while they're actually figuring out what their narrative is. So that this way they have all the race footage and all of the wins and everything that they could then be like, all right, this guy won this race. He hasn't won a race all season. This episode is his team.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all, but what I'm for instance, with Gasly, like, they got all of the record, like, video of, like, leading up, like, the day of that race for him. Like,
oh yeah, I think they do that for
means
probably everybody. They probably have 20 production teams out there following the drivers.
Yeah.
But, like, if you think about it, like, it's probably just, it's 20 camera operators and, like, a handful of, and by a handful, I mean, like, a large amount of, like, production assistants and stuff like that, and directors and people to just basically, like, make sure that things are, like, going smoothly.
Uh-huh.
But, like, the camera guys are probably just told, like, all right, follow this, almost like reality TV, where it's just, all right, you are in charge of following Hamilton today. You're just going to follow him around all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, the pit team or whoever behind the scenes will tell you if you're not allowed to go in somewhere. But for the most part, we're Netflix. We signed an agreement. We have free roam of their entire facility.
Yeah.
They just get to see the footage to make sure that we're not showing off anything confidential.
Were there any particular storylines throughout the series that you liked more? Like, any specific episode that you liked more?
I mean, episode 9 was absolutely fucking insane.
I was gonna say let's exclude 9 because that's obviously gonna be the most insane episode to talk about.
That's fair.
But, like, for instance, my favorite episode was the episode about Gasly and how he got demoted to the practice team, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then won. And it was, like, his redemption story. Like, he's trying to show that he is a good racer. But then it's, you watch this whole thing and he's not upgraded back to the Red Bull squad, which sucks.
Yeah, so
because he's a good racer. He deserves to be up there.
So here's one of my questions.
Yes.
So AlphaTauri was the team that he was racing on.
Correct.
Are they also owned by Red Bull?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So because that was one of the things I didn't get, because they said that he got dropped to a practice squad, basically.
Yeah.
Or, like, dropped from the team, but he was racing for them. So I'm like, all right, so what is it? Like, did he get dropped to, like, a lower team and then this other team signed him? Or do these teams just have the same owners?
No, yeah. AlphaTauri is Red Bull's fashion brand. Like, Red Bull's clothing line basically sponsors that other team. Like, they are a separate team, but all the drivers that drive for them work for Red Bull.
So it's like Red Bull is like the Flyers, whereas AlphaTauri is like the Phantoms?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
okay.
Kind of.
I know, like, they're not farmed, like, it's not like a major versus minor league thing, but
more or less.
They basically pull if a driver's really good in AlphaTauri, they might pull them into Red Bull if they need a better driver.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my other question then. Like, is there a minor league for this? Like how? Because they were showing stuff where a lot of these drivers have been, like, they were driving go-karts and stuff as a kid, but like real go-karts, not like the shit that, like, we would have around here.
Yeah.
But, like, is there, like, an F3 and an F2 and stuff like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe there's also an F4, but, like, Formula 4, I believe, is more, like, regional. Like, there will be the US Formula 4 or North America Formula 4 and Europe Formula 4 and Japan. Whereas Formula 2 and 3, actually, I think even starting next year, are doing all their races the same weekends as Formula 1. I think Formula 2 this year has done them all the same weekends as Formula 1 as well. But those work a little different, where, like, the cars are all, like, I'm pretty sure all exactly the same. Whereas Formula 1, all the different teams have to have bespoke cars. They can buy certain parts from other teams. So, like, Mercedes makes the engines for this year for Mercedes, McLaren, and Williams, but then Williams has to make their own aerodynamics for the car.
Okay, because that was actually another question I had that you segued into really well. Was I was very confused by that, because they were talking about, Racing Point got a bunch of flack for their car looking too much like Mercedes from 2019. And there was one episode where one of the other teams, it might have been Haas, I think, filed a formal, like, investigation complaint thing into the brake wells or something like that.
The brake ducts. It was Renault that filed the complaint, and McLaren.
I just found, it was definitely a Renault, because I just found my note. It was in episode 5.
Yeah.
And it's like a thing that you can't even see that they filed a complaint with. But then I'm looking up these cars and everything like that and seeing that, you know, a bunch of them use Mercedes engines or Ferrari engines. And it's like, but Ferrari and Mercedes have teams. So, like, how does...
Yeah.
But that makes more sense then.
Yeah, like, I think the engines are, like, the main thing that you can buy. And, like, they even talked about it in that episode. Like, the rule had changed that the year before it was okay for Racing Point to have bought the brake ducts directly from Mercedes. But then the rule about what parts were allowed to be bought got changed. And they were like, well, we bought the part when it was cool to have bought the part, and then because of COVID, like, not a whole lot of shit on the cars changed like it normally would have, and so they were like, we didn't change things. It was cool when we bought it, and then the FIA was like, no.
Which, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of on Racing Point's side. Like, when they bought it, they were allowed to have had bought it. Like, they should be allowed to keep using it. Like, just because the rule was changed mid-season, mid-hiatus, basically. Like, they're basically out money because the rules changed and they were unaware of a potential rule change.
Yeah, and just from watching the actual race from this past weekend, it seems like if they do make engineering changes to a car, they actually get like penalized for it. Because I think it was Hamilton and there was somebody else who is that the other person that, like, they changed something about their engines, so they actually took like a 10 spot drop in, like, their starting positions.
Yeah, Hamilton had a new part on his engine. You're limited to 3 engines per year, and then after that you start taking grid penalties for parts that you change. So normally they change out, I want to say the engines currently basically are a 4-part thing. Like, there's the actual engine and then 3 things that help turn it into, like, a hybrid. And, like, Signs changed everything out. And normally that's kind of what they do. It's like, all right, we're changing out all the parts, putting in new ones, because any one of them could fail after we've run it for so much. Time for the new one. But Hamilton, they were comfortable with all the other parts other than the actual combustion engine. So he only got 10 grid spot penalty for changing the one part instead of your last place no matter where you qualify that Signs got for changing everything.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't remember what spot they said he was supposed to start in, but I know they said Hamilton qualified for the first position, but started in 11.
Well, since Signs had all the penalties, he didn't even... The way qualifying works, it's a 3-stage thing. First, all 20 cars go out. The 5 slowest cars are eliminated. Then they go back in, pit, new tires, more fuel, whatever. Another 20 minutes. The 15 remaining cars go out, set new times. The lowest 5 times of that segment are eliminated. And then pits again, and then 15 minutes for the top 10 cars. So since Sainz had the penalties knowing he was going to start in last, they ran him like 1 lap so he had an official qualifying time. And then we're like, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I think he technically qualified like 14th.
Oh, jeez. So, what was the other... I just had another question based on that, and then I lost track of thought. Fuck. So we're qualifying, and... Yeah, I lost track of thought. I do have one other note here that the, like, unrelated to all that, about the steering wheel thing from... I believe it was in episode 1 or 2, where I believe it was Mercedes had changed their cars where their steering wheel was, like, they could push and pull it, and it would change the angle of their tires. And that's fucking wild.
Right? And everyone with that was like, whoa, no, how's that legal?
Yeah, like, they were talking about that. I'm just like, that seems... I would be terrified if my steering wheel fucking... I mean, I know their steering wheels pull out anyway, but I would be terrified if my steering wheel, like, pushed in while I was driving.
Right?
Hey, if you know the science behind it and how to drive it so that it runs better by angling your tires, you'd be all for it, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, these drivers, they practiced and practiced and practiced and learned, like, all right, when to angle them in, when to angle them to the left, when to angle them to the right, whatever it is, to make the turn the best turn that they can make, to make it faster, and to have to brake less.
Oh yeah, and just like these guys can do things in cars that it's insane. Like that, like the race on Sunday did not demonstrate it super well, but which was possibly because it was a wet track.
Mhm.
But like you said, Drew, there was that one point where like Hamilton and somebody else, Perez maybe.
Yeah, it was Perez.
They were just like they had a very good kind of back and forth. There was another one in that race too, and I forget.
Yeah, I forget which other. There was another good battle in there too, but yeah.
But like when we were watching the actual episode, so Erica actually ended up watching the last 2 episodes of the season with me, and even she was like watching like some of like the scenes of the driving. Like, what the fuck? Like when they're like inches, like their tires are inches apart as they're coming around a corner and they don't touch.
And they're going 150 miles an hour.
Yeah. Hey, at least in a corner, they're only doing like 90.
Some of them, like there was the one big turn in the race that they just did this last weekend that they were doing at 200, like while making a big sweeping left-hand turn or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean all of that is absolutely insane. And them just knowing, like, even I was saying this to Erica, watching them pit, watching them cut, like those cars are still moving when they pull into the pit lane, and that they're pulling into that little tiny spot like perfectly with the people on every side of them, and like people are standing right in front of that car. Like if that car doesn't brake, that person's knees are being destroyed.
Yeah,
and yeah, they're there. And actually, so that's a separate question, and I did remember what the other one was too.
Okay.
When they pit, they obviously change the tires and everything. Like, you see that. Are they not refueling the cars or anything? Because it never seems like they're doing anything like that.
No, they're not. Formula One banned refueling in 2010 after too many cars started catching fire when they fucked up refueling.
No, that makes sense, because you spit with how hot I mean, that one episode, the dude's brakes actually caught on fire. If like a little bit of gas spilled because they're running so quickly, like that could catch the whole car.
I went to Dover Downs race for the Busch Series just years ago, 10, 15 years ago, something like that. And while there, they had a little thing where you could sign up and ride in like a Viper or some other like fast car. So I'm like, all right, I want to ride the Viper. So we do the thing to let me be able to go ride the Viper, and halfway into my second lap, it starts to sputter. So it's like, oh, we're running out of fuel. Well, we'll go refuel and we'll give you a couple more laps. As he's going to refuel, he puts it in there, and he's like, you're not going to be able to ride the Viper, my dude. I'm like, why not? It's like, here, look. And he goes and he pours the gas into it, and it just evaporates immediately. He's like, it's hydro-locked and it's too hot in there. It's just evaporating the fuel as soon as it gets in there.
Wow.
So we can't ride this Viper for a little bit. I'll get you into the Magnum. And so we went and drove the Magnum.
Wild.
That's insane.
Yeah, like, it gets hot in those engines, man.
Yeah, I mean, not just the engines, like the tires, the brakes. Like, during this most recent race, because it was wet, they were talking a lot about the tires, because, like, people were trying not to pit and everything like that, which ended up actually fucking Hamilton in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they were just like, well, it's wet out, so if it stays wet but doesn't get wetter, they might not have to pit because they can keep and it was weird, because at first they were talking like they wanted the tires to be cool, but then at a certain point they're like, well, they need to keep the heat up on the tires. Like, they don't want them to get cool, which I assume is because they're rubber, and the rubber would just fucking be destroyed if it like cooled down too much.
Yeah.
That's why when you see in like when they're slowed down because of a caution or whatever, you see them weaving in and out. That's them keeping their tires warmed up. They're actually adding. Yeah. Like, if you were to watch NASCAR, they do it a lot in NASCAR, because NASCAR's not a starting
standing start.
Standing start. That's the word. It's not a standing start. It's a racing start.
I didn't know that.
Like, they have to keep their tires warm. But if it gets too warm, it'll pretty much explode.
Yeah.
Because it'll be too thin. But if it gets too cool, it'll become super brittle and start to break apart.
And, like, not have any grip. And especially in the rain, even though they were on the intermediate tires, which actually have treads, unlike the slick tires, which are literally just completely smooth tires, like, as they get cold, they'll get hard and become slick, as opposed to having that rubbery, almost gluey grip from them semi-melting. That's because that's how hot they get. But
yeah, so that's the difference between the tires is like the amount of tread on them.
Well, like what tires you mean?
So like when I'm going off of the actual race. Before the race started, they did like a little infographic thing where they showed like the 3 types of tires, and they said like everyone is starting on the intermediate tire, and then throughout the whole thing they were talking about like soft and slick and intermediate and hard, and is a lot of it just like the type of treads they have and how full of air they are?
Well, so the air pressures are all the same on all the tires, but it's a difference of how hard the rubber is to start, basically. And then the intermediate and wet tires have more tread. Like, at least, well, they have treads. Like you know how a car tire looks, where it has like the normal racing soft, medium, hard tires do not have that at all.
Okay, and I noticed that all the in the documentary, basically every race the tires just looked completely smooth. But then in the race this past weekend, they showed Hamilton's tires after he finally pitted. Mm-hmm. And you could see like the treads on the outside where like there just hadn't been a lot of wear. And then the inside was just totally bald because he rode on them for 50 laps.
Yeah. So the other tires, the soft, medium, hard, are how hard the compound of the rubber is. The softer it is, the faster it'll wear away. But also, the faster the car will be because it doesn't have to it has more grip, so you can turn better.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the hard tire will last longer, but not have as much grip, so you can't go as fast in the corners, and then the medium's in the middle.
Okay. And I remember what my other question was from before, too. So we were talking about how they get penalized for, like, changing out engines, and you said they could only change them out, like, 3 times in a season.
Uh-huh.
So what happens when they get into accidents? Because I actually had this note on here in general. Because, like, I know in one of the episodes there was a line where there was an accident, I want to say during, like, qualifying, or it might have been during practice.
Yeah, and it was the Red Bull episode. They were focusing on the Red Bull driver, I can't remember his name, and he gets into that accident in qualifying that they show a handful of times, and they're like, all right, well, you got to work overnight. And the pit crew has to put the car back together.
Yeah, exactly. And like that one looked like it, like the one of the front tires was just completely destroyed. Like axle and everything was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like when cars get into accidents in general, like if they can't get the car road ready by the time like if it happens on Friday during practice, they just have to get the car road ready by the next day to qualify, or they can't race.
Assuming they've set a time in practice, like they did not crash on their literal first lap in practice, they probably can get still qualify for the race, even if they can't put in a time in qualifying. As long as it's within a certain percentage of the top qualifying time, they would still be in the race. It's like 107% of the time.
Because it's basically like there are 20 drivers, so there are always like the worst qualifier is just in the last starting position.
Right. Or, well, if they have to be working on the car, they'll have to start from the pit lane, which means they cannot, like, they'll be at the very front of the pit lane, but they cannot start moving their car until the last car has gone by. And then they're also, like, limited on speed for that little bit of getting out of the pit lane and all that.
Okay. So then if a car is essentially totaled, like in episode 9, they just have to build a whole new car, obviously. But do they get penalized for like engines if they're technically changing their engine for the 4th time because they have to make a whole new car?
Well, that's when they start getting those grid penalties. That would be their all right, we're on our 4th engine, now we're back at the back of the grid.
Okay, so that's why I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if it was like okay, well, this engine's just not running well, so we have to change out like a carburetor. Or like, oh, like our driver ran off the road, the car was totaled, we built a new car that has technically it's a new engine. Do we get penalized for that? Yeah.
Depending. Well, there are rules about like once the weekend starts, like what you're allowed to change without having a penalty. So like really like at that point, like the engine and gearbox on your car, like you cannot change them once the weekend has started without a penalty.
Which makes sense.
And like it happened to one of the drivers at this year at the Monaco race. He crashed on the last lap of qualifying, and like it wasn't that bad of a wreck, but since he hit the rear axle, it broke the gearbox, and he qualified first but had to start last.
Okay. And
because
I guess
he
like
had
if,
to change all the shit.
yeah, and I guess if the car is damaged enough, there's just a chance that they can't race at all that week, and they'll have to wait till the following race.
Yeah, it's insane how good those mechanics are at getting a car to at least be able to run.
That's fair, and like those cars, like there's not as much to them as like a regular ass car, so it's probably easier to get the frame and everything like that finished.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if the engine is at least usable, like getting the frame and everything and the tires back on probably aren't as bad. But still, that's insane. Because like watch every time there was an accident, like the car was basically just torn to pieces.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, and then like they were back the next race with like their car again.
Yeah, I mean that was probably an all new fiberglass and all that. Like the chassis might have chassis might have been the same, but it was all new bodywork. There was a race this year where Verstappen crashed on like the lap before they like get on the grid to do the formation lap like 20 minutes later. So the team and like broke the front axle, like broke one of the wheels off the fucking car. The team had like 15 minutes to go put a fucking new front axle on his car, and they did it. Like
that's
how crazy these mechanic teams are. It's like, all right, fucking run, go. We need a whole new front end on this car in 15 minutes. Go, 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 go.
I mean, that's the question though. Is it that's how crazy these teams are, or is that how crazy these things are built to where like everything is so easily accessible?
Column A, column B, like combination of both.
Yeah, because I forget if I don't remember if it happened during the race I watched or during the season, but I think it was during the season. There were a few times just with like pit stops where the pit stops happened so quickly it didn't look like they like Erica watched one and she's like, "What did they do? They didn't do anything." I'm like, "No, they changed tires." But then there was another one where like they messed up with the tires, and then they actually put the wrong tires on, so the guy had to then pit a second time to get the right tires put on. They mixed and matched them, I think, is basically what they said. Yep. And then I don't think it was that same driver, but another driver then had like, I think it was Haas, because it was the two guys that both got let go of their team like that episode.
Okay.
Like he had a bad pit, and then he also couldn't get his car started again right away. Like he did like a bad start, and so like he like stalled out, and what should have been like a 10-second pit stop was like a 30-second, and it was like just enough to like fuck his race.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one more question for right now, and then I'll let Richie talk some. Sorry, Rich.
It's fine. It's fine.
So we went over before that like Red Bull technically owns two teams, and the teams can have engines and certain bits and pieces from other manufacturers. I saw, like, when I was like looking up some of the teams and stuff like that to try and get like a better idea what was going on, I saw that Racing Point is now Aston Martin.
Yep.
But I also saw in the show Red Bull had like Aston Martin all over their stuff. Is that just because they're running like an Aston Martin engine, or were they also like partners prior?
Yeah, I mean, Aston Martin was just the sponsor, and they're just the sponsor on the Aston Martin team now. I mean, I guess there's some design work that's happening at Aston Martin corporate level.
That's what it seemed like based on the end of the season, where the billionaire dude was like going into the Aston Martin thing, and they were showing him like the new side panels were green instead of pink and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, like all that Aston Martin branding that was on the Red Bull last year, that's not on Red Bull this year. Like, I don't know if you noticed that wasn't on their rear wing this year or whatever.
I did not, because all they fucking showed that whole race was Hamilton.
That's fair. That, like, legit, that's me, my brother, and Sarah's biggest complaint when watching any races. It's like, okay, great, Hamilton's in the lead or whatever. We can see all these, like, position changes happening on the timing bar on the side. It's like, why aren't we seeing any of this?
Yeah.
That's the hard part about racing, though, is especially with like the Formula One and Indies and stuff like that, is that because the track is so big and curvy, they could keep the camera on just one specific point, but like you don't know when things are going to happen. So like honestly, in my opinion, the best way to do racing is to have the lead car on like a smaller screen and do like a golf thing where you're like, all right, here's what's also happening all over the place.
Yeah,
yeah, they should
hey,
jump around.
Like 30 seconds ago, this just happened, and oh look, hey, the lead pack is down here, but this is happening up here, and this guy's going. Like they need to, like NASCAR is easier because, like you said, Cobb, they only take left turns. But like with Indy racing and with the Formula One racing, because it's all over the place in such big tracks, like you need multiple cameras, so it's kind of hard.
Well, they literally have.
Something.
I mean, they have cameras everywhere. It's not like It's not like a wrestling show where there's like one big hard cam that aims at the ring and then like two other cameramans running around. It's like there is literally a separate individual camera at every fucking turn of the track.
Yeah, and you could actually see in some of like the aerial shots all of the cameras on like zip lines that they could run back and forth for like moving shots and stuff.
Yeah.
And also every car has at least a camera that's like from the driver's perspective. And I think they also have them facing out the backs also.
Mm-hmm.
And NASCAR actually, I don't know if they still do, but back in the day, you could pay pay-per-view wise to get a specific racer's camera view.
I think
on your cable box.
I think on so F1 has their own app. I think on the F1 app you can pick what camera you want to watch, but
and
like that's a separate thing. And it's like you would think, and like the F1 broadcast that we get in the US is from Britain. Like they actually give a shit about it. Like you would think they would care about the racing, but also maybe that's why they focus on Lewis all the time because he's British.
Yeah. So I also don't know if you caught it or not, but during I'm sure you have because it probably happens every race. During the race, there was like a quick little ad, which also I didn't realize this was a British feed and there would be no commercials the whole time. That was helpful. That made it easier to watch because it wasn't like any other sport where it's okay, well, we're going to see 5 minutes of sport and then 10 minutes of commercial. Yeah. It was a solid hour and a half of just the race and them talking about what was going on. But they mentioned at one point, if you are a Sky subscriber, which is the network in the UK, you can press your red button while watching it on your remote, and it would do split screen where I think it said you'd get the lead car and then what else, and then like everybody else.
Okay.
But Rich, to your point, they weren't even following the lead car this time. Like Hamilton started in 11th and worked his way up. I think he got to 3rd was his highest spot, which I get it. Like the dude worked his way from 11th to 3rd, but there were plenty of time where like he was in 5th for the majority of the race because he just kind of got stuck where like there was just a big enough gap and he only got to 3rd because he didn't pit. Like like the people that were in front of him pitted, he did not. And then when he finally did, there weren't enough laps left in a race for him to get that spot back.
Yeah.
But there were other things that you could see, like just watching like the positions change on the little chart on the left, where it's like, well, what the fuck is going on with these guys? Like, sure, they're losing, but like they're going back and forth. Like, show us the back and forth. Don't show us the guy that's just driving like 15 feet behind the other guy. Like, because it's when the cars. It's interesting to watch them when they're driving, not aggressively, because that's not the right word, but like strategically, I guess would be a better word. Like when they are trying to pass somebody and they're getting up behind them into like that like slipstream and then like shooting around them real quick, or when they are in that like neck and neck where they're right next to each other, they're taking turns and their tires are basically touching as they're both just making these turns at the exact same time. Like that's super cool to watch. But when it's an hour and 15 minutes of just a guy a few feet behind the other guy, that's super fucking boring.
Yeah.
Especially when you know there's other people making moves. Like, even if they're losing, like, it would at least be interesting to see, like, oh, like, Size, or whatever his name is, like, went from 19th to 8th. Like, show us some of those moves.
Yeah.
Like,
and, like, the crazy thing is sometimes, I'll bet there even is one, there's probably a F1 produced video showing all of Sainz's passes to get from 19th to 8th. and it's like, why wasn't any of this out on the actual broadcast?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and do they? So I noticed in the end standings that there were a bunch of racers at the bottom that literally just said plus lap.
Yep.
Did they literally get lapped? Like, did the lead 5 cars actually drive past them while going around?
Yep.
Wow. How does that even happen?
Those top cars, the Mercedes and the Red Bull especially, are so much faster than everyone else.
Like, so those cars are legitimately faster?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, they have more powerful engines and better aerodynamics, so, like, they just are faster.
See, I assumed the cars were all more or less the same speed, but...
I mean, like, the difference is not all that much, but if you're 2 miles an hour faster over a 5-mile track, or 4-mile track, whatever, add up 2 miles an hour for 5 miles, like, you're going to wind up being a minute faster than the slowest car over 58 laps.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah,
it's just I didn't realize they were actually lapping the other cars, so it was just one of those, like, it just seemed crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because, like, when you see them, like, those cars are all very fast. Like,
yeah.
But
and then, of course, in like normal Mario Kart status, they have to keep the winners who finish have to keep going around until the losers make their position or finish up all their laps, right?
No.
No, like, not everyone has to stay on the track and keep driving, but just a little bit slower to keep their position until everyone has gotten all their laps done, even if it means I have to go 4 or 5 more times.
No, once the lead driver gets the checkered flag, everyone finishes the lap they're on. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because you know what? Now that you mention it, when I was watching the race, there were people lower in, like, the standings that, like, had the finished thing next to them earlier than some of the people that were more, like, middle of the pack.
Yeah, and we talked to me and Sarah and Al, because Al's been watching almost every race with us when he doesn't have work. He's been coming over. We noticed.
You guys watch them when they're airing, or do you just record them and watch them later?
No, we watch them when they're airing. Like, I think we were like 5 minutes behind this week because my brother texted me kind of late in the morning, like late for being able to get here on time. He was like, watch the race today? I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking pause it if you're not here by the time it starts. So I think he got here at like 8:04 or something.
I was gonna say, that's fucking early for all y'all to be up and him to be out of the house to watch a fucking race.
But we noticed positions 1 through 8 and then 10 through 20 at one point had the checkered flag, but I believe it was Stroll was in 9th and he didn't. So just like where he was on the track, like he was the last car on the lead lap, I'm pretty sure. I think cars 10 through 20 had all been lapped and or close to it. So I'm pretty sure like Stroll was like probably just ahead of the start finish line when Bottas finished to win. So he had to finish his whole lap before he.
That's hilarious.
Done. Because I mean, like theoretically, if Sainz or whoever was ahead of him like spun out and crashed and didn't finish, he would have passed them for position. But yeah, it was like, wait, why does? Oh, I guess he hasn't finished his lap yet because here's everyone else has technically finished the lap they were on after Bottas won, except you.
And then their positioning is set, right? Like if you're in first place and you pit, when you come out, like there's no like time management thing there, right? Like if 3 cars passed where you were at when you pitted, like you are now in 4th place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You have to manage your position and manage your pits. That's why in one of the episodes they were like they pitted, and I believe that was the Gasly episode. They pitted him early, and he's like, "Why are you pitting me early? Like I've got so much more time." But they pit him early, and then everything else happens to the point where he was able to go from 15th, 16th to 1st, and then win that race.
Yeah, and the reverse happened with Hamilton this past week, where he had moved himself from 11th to 3rd on a single set of tires, but by the time they told him he had to pit, it was like the 50th lap out of 58. And when he got back out, he lost 2 positions, and there was no getting back up there in what he had left.
But that was also after him telling them 4 times, no, I'm not coming in the pits, when they tried to tell him, okay, time to pit on lap 40, and he was like, no. And they were like, okay, you're Hamilton, I guess not.
Well, he asked if he could run the tires the whole time, and eventually they just told him like he had to. Whereas one of the other racers did. Sorry, Rich.
No. Is there like a forced pit? Like, do they have to pit at least once or anything like that? Is there a rule? Like, I think I remember them saying that like you're only allowed to pit once, or you have to pit at least once. I can't remember.
Normally, if it's a dry condition race, they have to pit at least once because they have to use 2 different sets of tires. Like, they have to use a medium and a hard, or a soft and a hard, or whatever. Like, they have to use 2 different types of tires. When there's rain, they don't have to, because like it's dangerous for them to be on slick tires if it's wet, and it might not be so wet that they need to use the wet tires as opposed to the intermediate. So they don't actually have to pit if there's been rain and the track doesn't dry out like this last race. Ocon didn't pit. He went all 58 laps on the 1 set of tires.
Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, like, some of the names I remember from the season, but then other ones I don't. And they might not have been drivers last year, but there was also the issue where they don't show their full name on the standings thing. Mm-hmm. They show, like, abbreviations, and some of them make sense. Like Hamilton is HAM. Like, I can figure out who that is. But then, like, I think Schumacher is, like, MSH?
MSC.
MSC. And I'm just, like, it took me a while to realize who that was supposed to be.
So,
isn't it Michael or something? Like
this is Mick. Michael was his dad, and his dad used MSC instead of SCH because his brother, Ralph, also was a driver with him at one point. So Mick Schumacher has asked to use the MSC because it was his dad's.
Oh, okay. So that actually makes sense. Like, I get that then.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a weird, like, that's just what they went with for him.
Yeah.
Well, Rich, since I've been asking all of these questions, is there anything, like, from the episodes that you wanted to hit on?
No, like I said, I really liked how they did it with, like, each episode being either, like, its own story or own focus. Like, the first episode focused on the first race as well as the hit of COVID on the sport. And then every episode after was a focus on, like, the particular racers or teams. It's just, like, I like, it is a really well done, and I want to kind of go back and rewatch the previous 2 seasons. But at the same time, I'm just like, do I really need to? It's, like, it was 2 years ago. Like, this is the newest season. Like, the rest of that information doesn't really change, and I don't really need to know that. But, it does get me kind of wanting to watch more, Formula One. Or maybe even, like, watching some, like, the Americas, like, the Indy Cup racing. We do need to talk about episode 9.
I was about to say.
There were a couple of things like not as crazy as episode 9, but that I wanted to hit on. I agree, though. Like, I am probably going to at least watch the next season when it happens, because this was really well done and it was super interesting to watch, even as somebody that, like, obviously by all my questions, I knew jack shit about F1. And, like, I'll send you guys all the random notes I made while I was watching it, and, like, some of them just don't make any sense. But, like, I took a lot of them, and, like, I didn't ask all the questions because some of them were, like, repeats of, like, you know, I'd watched, like, 2 episodes one day and then 2 more, like, 3 days later. So, like, I just didn't remember that I asked that question in my notes already.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like, it really was well done, Rich. Like you said, they just they told an interesting story. You got to see what the drivers were like, what the teams were like the managers and stuff like that, and you got to see, like, different sides where, you know, some teams like Mercedes, those guys don't seem to like each other. Whereas I forget what other team it was, but the one team, like, the 2 drivers were actually, like, they were friends. Like, they were joking around a lot, having a good time. The one was getting ready to leave for another team at the end of the year.
That was McLaren, I think you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, like, they were kind of, like, joking and stuff most of the time, but, like, they're also still competitors.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you were right about, like, the beginning of it, Rich, about, like, watching, like, COVID kind of happen. It was it was honestly kind of wild to see that like it started in February and there were just like people like kind of like talking in like almost hushed tones. It's like, do you think we're gonna have to wear masks? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like the first race comes about in like March, and it gets canceled, and everything gets shut down for months.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where obviously this wasn't made with that in mind because they were just filming their show like they normally would have.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's going to go on to be, I think, in like years to come, one of the few basically like real looks into like what happened. Because, like, how many docuseries were filming between February and April of 2020?
Probably not all that much.
Yeah. Like, sure, there's plenty of people I'm sure there's plenty of footage and, like, news reports and all sorts of other shit. But, like, this was just candid footage. Like,
yeah.
Nobody realized how bad it was going to be in February, and then March comes around and just everything's done.
Like, it's almost filmed as if it was supposed to be B-roll at start.
Yeah.
And then became the main focus for an entire episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it's really crazy how they handled all that. But we've been on this topic for close to an hour. And we haven't even talked about episode 9.
Yeah, let's talk about episode 9.
What's the name of the racer, Drew?
Romain Grosjean.
Romain Grosjean. They teased this crash, probably episode like 3 or 4.
It was almost every episode. It seemed they talked about it.
Probably, but like they would show it or whatever in the upcoming, and then you finally get to see it. It is the longest episode of the season, at close to twice the length of the rest of the episodes, and it is phenomenal. But just shows how crazy these cars are engineered that he survived a crash like that.
Yeah, I was watching that race live when that thing happened.
Yeah. Like, wow.
I've known about this crash for a year and a half or whatever, like, and knew he survived with essentially no injury. Like, dude is driving an Indy car right now, like a way more dangerous racing series.
Oh, really?
Indy car is ridiculously dangerous with those ovals. Like, they go way too fast and don't have enough downforce. Those cars will fly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it was everyone was like, you're going to fucking IndyCar after that crash? Like, what are you doing, dude?
I thought he was retired. I thought he was done. Like, the way the show made it out to be, like, he was not gonna race anymore, ever, anything.
That's pretty much what everyone thought. And then it was like, oh, I'm gonna drive some races in IndyCar.
Yeah, and
I mean, he had also been dropped from his team like 2 episodes before. It was him. It was both drivers for his team, Haas. They both got because they needed sponsorship, and the people that were offering them sponsorship wanted a German driver, and Michael Schumacher's son was looking to start driving on F1. So
he had just won the Formula 2 championship, and is younger and cheaper.
Just to
but
hear
also
some of the comments, just to hear some of the comments of like some of the crews and stuff during the crash of like, I didn't know a modern F1 car could crash like
that. Nobody knew. It's like, what the hell?
Like, that's not, like, there's so much in place that, like, they're not supposed to turn into fireballs like that anymore.
Nope.
Yeah, and I guess, so, for anyone who's listening who has no idea what we're talking about, Drew, do you know how to say the name of the race? It's like Biran or something like that?
I forget if that was the Shakir Grand Prix or if it was the Bahrain Grand Prix.
It was Bahrain.
They ran back-to-back races on the same track with different names, and I just can't remember which one.
It was definitely the B one because I looked it up afterwards.
It was Bahrain.
Yeah. The driver lost control and shot into like the metal barricade and literally into it. Like his car went under it. The back half of the car was ripped away and sent a few feet down the road. And the main body of the car that he was still in exploded in fire.
Yeah, and like you see the back end of the car with no cockpit, no seats or anything, just like cut almost clean in half.
Yeah,
and he was in the fire for 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah,
before like the dude fucking climbed out on his own.
Yeah, and like, he goes into like detail of like his entire experience. Of being in that fire, in that inferno. And it's just, I got chills. I got emotional. Like, I didn't think it was going to get that emotional, but I did.
Yeah,
and
like
then
that.
he got to talking about his family and stuff, and I got more emotional. And it hit, man. It hit.
Yeah, that was the episode that Erica actually started watching it with me because she had to go out and get blood work done, and she got home as that was happening, and like,
whoops, sorry.
I actually I rewound the episode. I'm just like, you have to watch this. This is because she had gotten home like right after he had gotten out of the fire, so like I knew he survived.
Yeah.
So hold on, real quick. How long did you say he was in the fire?
I believe he said 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
It was 28 seconds. That's all it was. It was only 28 seconds.
I thought it
really?
was longer.
No, it fucking feels like an
eternity.
eternity, but no, it was only 28 seconds.
Yeah, I could have sworn he said it was over 2 minutes when he was doing like his interview.
Nope.
Wow.
I have the audio that played was I pulled up the Formula1.com article interviewing him after it, and it starts 28 seconds. That's how long it took from impact for Grosjean to escape the Inferno.
Which is also absolutely insane because, just how quickly, the teams were there with,
fire
extinguishers and and all that stuff. And I know I read on his Wikipedia page, he actually credited the halo, which
yes,
I guess is that piece that's kind of wrapped around the top of the cockpit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With saving his life. And
I
looked, that thing has only been around since 2014 or something like that.
Is it even that old? I want to say it's even
might have been 2016.
Yeah. I'll double check that. But the halo came around because of a different driver's accident where his head hit a thing and he died 3 months later after never recovering from the accident.
It's almost as if being in a race car that's open is not a good idea.
Yeah, like that. I mean, mentioning the openness of it, in the episode before that, it actually might have been the same driver. It was another Haas driver. I don't know if it was him or the other guy. Thought he broke his finger because a car in front of him hit the track, the warning track, whatever you want to call it, and sprayed gravel while he was behind him and hit his hand. And he's literally in the car. He's like, I can't feel or move my finger. I think it's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget. I think that was the other guy, Magnussen, but I don't remember. And so the halos have only been on the cars since 2018.
Okay, what did I see that said 20? Maybe it was that they started being tested in 2016?
Yeah, the first tests were carried out in 2016 and then more in 2017. But then 2018, they were a permanent mandatory fixture on the cars.
But yeah, that was just... And like I said, I rewound it after I saw that he survived, and I had Erica watch it, and she was just like, holy shit. And then seeing him come up afterwards with his hands all bandaged up, and it's that's all. He had a boot on his foot and bandages on his hand.
Right.
And it wasn't even all his hands. His one hand, 3 of his fingers were completely free and didn't look like they had any noticeable burns on them. Jesus, that's. I mean, that means their suits are very well made.
Yeah.
But also Jesus Christ, that's. And I don't know if you guys caught it, but when that was happening, he knew he was crashing because all you hear is him say, "Oh fuck," before his car crashes and just immediately explodes in fire.
Mm. Yeah, it was crazy. I highly suggest, whether you're a fan of Formula One or not, this is a really good docuseries to watch.
Yeah, as somebody who doesn't like cars, I like this enough that I want to watch the next season.
Hell, it made you watched a race.
Yeah, I was curious to see, so in the series, because they were showing from inside the cockpit, They had the actual chat between the drivers and the pit crew over their radios. Mm-hmm. I was curious how much of that is actually in the races versus just Netflix production. And they do actually show that have the radios and stuff. It's very hard to understand them compared to Netflix where they can subtitle it and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still all there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I will probably watch the next season, which I assume is probably early next year.
Yeah, I'd imagine. I want to say all the seasons have come out in March, which is usually right when the F1 season is about to start. So
that makes sense because looking it up, it looks like they've run races into mid to late December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, March gives them time to cut and put everything together and then release it right as the new season starts up.
Yep.
Any like last things?
Romain Grosjean calls himself the Phoenix now. After
Nice.
that crash. Like, apparently he tags all his Instagram posts, like, hashtag the Phoenix.
You
Nice.
know,
Good for him. Lean in.
Right.
let him.
Right?
Let him.
Exactly.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, like,
Let
you could tell just looking at all of the drivers and all of, like, the pit crew, like, nobody thought he made it out of that.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
yeah.
Why would any of them think he made it out of that? Like, it's crazy that, because, like, that does not happen. Like, cars don't catch on fire like that.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
I wonder, do you know if they ever found out what happened that caused the fireball?
If I remember correctly, something failed on the fuel tank, and like when it hit the barricade, because like that barricade was just like the thing you see on the side of a highway,
Yeah.
not like a special racing barricade, it seemed, and it just shredded the car, and I'm pretty sure it ripped the fuel line, and so just all the fuel was exposed.
And it's metal, and everything's very
It's-
hot already, so,
yeah.
like, I mean, is it normal how much those cars throw sparks from underneath of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're literally centimeters off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were that low, like, based on their
Mhm.
tires. It's just sparks were constantly flying off of some of them, so I wasn't sure if that was normal or not.
Yeah, it's normal. It's weird. It's still weird to see. It's like, oh yeah, no wait, it's normal that car
So,
just
like-
scraped on the ground.
So, like, if they lean into it right, though, they get, like, a speed boost, right?
Maybe.
Well, they have to get the right color sparks.
Well, that's what I mean. You got to lean into
yeah.
it. You got to hold it long enough, and then
Yeah.
when you straighten yourself out, you get a quick boost.
Hmm.
I mean, probably because all the scraping's going to actually slow you down.
Actually,
to
you know,
stop
that's
scraping. You're going to get that speed boost, but you're going to be slowed down from having to get that speed.
Well, are you guys ready for what's next?
I'm going to tell you right here, right now, if it's not Initial D or Fast and the Furious or something car related, or you done wrong.
Well, it's not. It's none of those.
You
Damn
done
it.
wrong.
We did two
Like-
car. Look,
It's fair.
We-
You should have finished with like Fast and the Furious or something. Come on.
but like, I think we've all watched all of those, and
So?
we've talked about all of them on this show in depth before too.
Then Initial D.
I never liked Initial D.
Yo, I've
Never
never seen
watched
a
it.
second of a Fast and Furious movie.
Really, I thought you watched them.
Nah, I kept meaning to borrow the thing from Richie or whatever, but fucking just never did, and COVID and
All right. Well, we know what we're gonna do eventually. Me and Rich will just take turns.
Yeah.
No. So because it's coming back in January, I'm gonna have you guys read the first 2 volumes of Saga.
Okay.
So it's available on Comixology Unlimited, which you can get a free trial for, which I believe the free trial is actually 30 days. And if you like it enough, up to volume 3 is actually available on Comixology.
Wait, you're telling me I have to read for the book club?
The
Man.
fuck is this?
You,
It's bullshit.
if I remember originally, Rich, when this was originally pitched, you actually said you'd be willing to read a book. You just might not be able to do it quickly.
Yeah. I mean,
But this book has pictures.
you know, that might help.
I should have done this sooner, but I need to find Brian K. Vaughan's thing about this book coming back so that I can give you a better idea of what this is about.
It's all I know. It's a strange series about the character from Furikuri who had the TV on its head, and it's just a weird series about the TV headed thing from Furikuri.
Only after issue like 40. But yeah, so it's a space thing. It's sci-fi. Everyone is like a different alien race. There are 2 specific races. One of them has wings. The other one has horns. That their countries their planets are at war with each other. I believe one of them is from like the moon. The other one is from the actual planet. I have to reread these 2 because it's been a while. But one person from each of these races, they fall in love and have a baby. And it's like super taboo. Like their races just despise each other. They're just in an eternal war with each other. If I remember correctly, the female, whose name I'm totally blanking on, she's an actual soldier when they meet, and her future husband is a prisoner, and they sort of bond kind of over both of their just dislike of war. And they end up having a baby. And the story is actually framed as the baby, Hazel, telling like the story of her life at some point in the future. So as the story progresses, there are like time skips where I think these first 2 volumes, she is actually a baby throughout all of them. But like the volume after that, I think she jumps up to maybe like a 2 or 3 year old. And then a couple there later, she jumps up to maybe like a 5 or 6 year old. It's super interesting though. There's a bunch of other alien sort of things in there. Like Rich said, there is a group that has TV heads. The one that you're thinking of is Prince Robot the Fourth, I believe. Yeah, like just there's a lot of just sex and violence and craziness in this book, and it's so well done.
Awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, it's the first 2 volumes. If you guys need links or anything like that, I can send them to you. Comixology Unlimited. You can sign up for a free trial for it, which makes it much easier to do. Rich, since I know your tablet isn't very good, you can read these online, like just on the computer, and the web viewer actually works really well.
I'll probably use my phone.
Okay, well, I was going to actually say that too. Like, if you do on your phone, Comixology has a guided view where what it does, I believe you just double tap on like the book when you get started. It will show you a full shot of a page, but then as you swipe to pages, it actually zooms in panel by panel.
Okay.
So like it'll take you in the order you need to read them through. So if you're reading it on a smaller device, it's actually easier to read. I would still say like if you're near your computer, like reading them in the web browser is actually an easier way to do it, but the phone should actually work fine.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what I choose to read it. I don't read well on the computer. Probably has something to do with like maybe my monitor is always too bright or whatever. Like I don't focus on the computer, so I would need on like my phone.
That's fair, but yeah, it's 12 issues altogether. So
yeah.
Do you guys think you can do that in 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's fine.
Probably.
All right, so then the episode of the 28th is when we should be talking about Saga.
Alrighty.
I almost went, oh, wait, 2 weeks. I'm not here in 2 weeks, but no, it's 3 weeks.
Okay, well, that worked out then. So,
yeah.
And then I guess Rich, yours would be next. And Drew, you're only gone for a few days, really, right?
Yeah, I'm only gone Tuesday through Thursday. Or, like, I leave Tuesday morning, come back Thursday afternoon, but yeah, I'm not going to really be available to record that week, so.
That's fair and understandable. But how about Metroid Dread, Rich?
Yo, Metroid Dread. Let me tell you, I have so much fun playing that game. It's so good.
But you're not playing it enough.
Look, I'm playing it enough. I'm playing it fine. Look, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding.
From what I hear, though, the game's like really only like 12 hours. So
give or take,
I've heard it's half that, unless you're 100%ing it.
But me only playing it like once, yeah, and you know me, I'm gonna do my best to 100% it. But me only playing it once a week, it's gonna make the game feel longer. But it's also, I had a bunch of plans that I wanted to do for streaming in October that I haven't really gotten into, so that's the other reason why I'm only playing it once a week.
So I will say, and like, I hope you don't consider this a spoiler, but at a certain point, not too far from where you're at, the game gets a serious like it's not horror vibe, but has like a horror vibe to it, which definitely fits.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of what I was hoping for a lot more of this game, because it's called fucking Metroid Dread. Like, I was getting a feeling that they were going a little bit more horror-ish, kind of. Especially with the Emmys. That, like, I was like, alright, well, that kind of works for spooky games during October, but I wanted to play a lot more spooky games in October. But since I'm also doing Retro Thursdays, and I'm not going to stop doing that, that kind of limits my spooky availability.
I mean, only so much as, like, you could go play, like, old Resident Evil.
I'm trying to keep retro to, like, Genesis and not really, it's like Super Nintendo and prior. Like, I'm not trying to go much beyond Super Nintendo. I could play, like, the original Resident Evil. I guess that could be considered.
Dude, anything on GameCube, PS2, and older, like early launch stuff, it's 20 years old at this point. That's retro.
But, like, when you talk retro games, though, you think SNES and older.
We do, but 20-year-olds today think PlayStation 3.
Well, they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. But with Metroid Dread, though, like, I was expecting it to get, to have a change in tone. It's actually kind of been a little bit of, like, this spooky vibe to it already. The Emmys are so fun to deal with.
They are, and they definitely, like, that is a suspenseful area. Like, when you enter the Emmy zone and the screen gets that, that fuzziness and that sort of, like, blackness around the edges, and the camera zooms in on Samus whenever an Emmy is nearby.
Yeah.
They
just, I feel like they did a really, really good job with this game. And I've had a lot of fun. It's like the most fun I've had playing a game in a long time.
Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it too. And I sent you a message about this. This is one of the, so we've talked about this before where like, I don't get that sense of gratification that you get from like beating like a Dark Souls boss. I hate it. Like, it just annoys me. I don't want to do it. But like, I get that in this game. Like, I'm not frustrated having to, like, it took me a good 20 tries to beat Creed. Yeah. I could not get that boss fight to work in my favor. I think part of it, so I was trying to use missiles a lot, for the majority of it, and I watched yours, and you basically used missiles. For whatever reason, like, with playing it in handheld, just holding the R button, or RL, or whatever it is, and doing stuff, it was just super uncomfortable.
Yeah, so that is one of the harder parts about the game, and from what I hear, I'm playing on a smaller screen on my monitor, so it still looks pretty good, but playing the game on a bigger screen, it doesn't really look that great, and it looks really good on on the new Switch. But a lot of people are saying it's really hard to play it on the Switch just because of the controls.
Yeah, so they
like it's because you have to, what is it? It's L to aim and then R to shoot missiles. And it's, like, that's the hardest part for me, is remembering that I have to hold L to aim.
And then you add ZL and ZR for, like, other stuff, too.
Yeah, but, like, when you're fighting, your main combats, you don't really use ZL, ZR.
Well, I wasn't thinking about just main combat, but, like, there's a boss fight that you're almost up to where you actually have to, you don't have to, but the way I ended up doing it, involved a lot of switching between firing missiles during combat, and then switching to the grapple beam between. And, like, that is hold ZL for the grapple beam, or, I'm sorry, hold RL for the grapple beam, hold R for missiles, and then also holding L the whole time to aim it, and remembering to hold Y when I shoot the grapple beam so that I actually grapple and don't just press it like I'd been doing to fire mass amounts of missiles.
And that's one of the things I absolutely love about this game, is it brings me back to old school gaming, like, quote, retro, because PlayStation 1 is retro, but, like, back to, like, retro game, like, when I started gaming, where in order to get up onto a different level in, like, to jump up, in Tomb Raider, you had to press X, then triangle, then push up, and you had to hold on to triangle the entire time. Like, you had to hit multiple button combinations. Whereas a lot of games today, it's like, oh, you want to climb up this thing, you just press X and you jump up and climb up onto it automatically. This game gives me that feeling of, you have to remember to aim, you have to remember to hit the button for the missiles, then you have to remember to switch and hold the button, and it's like, it's a lot of button pressing and like, memory. And it brings me back, kind of.
Yeah, I do wish, though, that they offered some sort of options for controls, because like, from an accessibility standpoint, it's shitty that they don't, because there are people that would want to play this that physically can't with that button layout, but could probably make it work if instead of a hold they had like a toggle. Like, I would much rather have like that's all I need. It's just an option where I can tap R to turn missiles on and off. Because, like, have you gotten any of the missile upgrades yet?
Not yet, no.
All right. Do you mind, like, if I talk about them just very, very minor?
I mean, it's missile upgrades. You get them in Metroid. Like,
yeah, exactly. So, you know how in, like, Super Metroid, like, missile and super missile were two different items that you would just toggle between?
Yeah.
They just stack in this one, which is cool because it's all the same ammo pool. So, like, I have, like, 110 missiles. Yeah. But, like, as you get your missile upgrades, you stop having regular missiles and you just have super or ice or whatever, and it's just, they do whatever the one before it did too, as far as, like, unlocking doors and whatnot. Whereas, like, I think I'd personally prefer if I could just toggle like that on and off instead of having to hold the button. And if that meant having to toggle between like the three of them, like fine, like whatever. Like that's how Super Metroid was. But like it's not a deal killer. It doesn't ruin the game. It's just to play it in handheld, it would be less uncomfortable on my hands to be able to toggle than to have to hold those buttons.
Yeah. It's I can totally understand that. Like it's a hard thing to do even with the Pro controller. Like I honestly can't imagine playing this with the Joy-Con.
And then think about if you had any sort of disability with your hands, where like you can play games, but you can't necessarily hold buttons in like that. So like you rely on accessibility controls to be able to toggle things on and off, which games have gotten really good about in recent years. But this game, there are no options at all. It's very much in that mindset of like 90s, where it's just like, yep, this is what you have, this is all you can do. Yeah, and I do wish I could change my controls, because like I personally want to shoot with the trigger button. Yeah. I keep wanting to shoot with the trigger button. That's what is commonplace nowadays, shooting with the trigger button. And I like you, I wouldn't mind if like R was a toggle and not a hold. That would be a lot easier. But then like if you watched me fight Kraid, I would have messed up a lot more, and it might have taken me longer to beat him because it's a button hold. Because while I'm firing the missiles, once he starts throwing his claws at me or the circle things, you let go of the missiles and you just shoot your wave beam and you're good. Yeah, so it's funny. So to talk about Kraid for a minute, I watched your fight with him, and I think it took you, maybe like 3 tries at most?
5, maybe.
Oh, was it? See, I thought you did it quicker than that. But still, like you shot missiles pretty much the whole time. Yeah. And you would drop them occasionally to like fire at the either his claws or the other stuff that he threw out. And it's funny because like as I'm watching you do it, I'm also like under my breath because like we were watching TV while I was doing it. I'm just like, dude, just fucking use your charge beam. You can take those out quicker. Because my fight, once I realized that like I couldn't hold that button in and fire and move the way I needed to. Yeah. I started just taking it way slower and using the charge beam. Mm-hmm. And when he throws the eggs out, when you're up top, when he spits them out of his mouth and like there's like a fireball in there too.
Yeah.
If you fire charge beams kind of diagonally at him, it'll take out the eggs and hit his mouth still. Mm-hmm. And then when you're down on the ground and he's shooting the eggs out of his stomach, if you time it right, you can just fire a charge beam right at that stomach hole. And as an egg is popping out, and you'll destroy the egg too and get either the health or the thing. But like I couldn't do what you were doing. Like I could not keep the missile barrage up and also dodge things and aim at the same time because of like all the uncomfortableness.
Yeah. And like for me, I kind of forget about the charge beam. In the original Metroid, there was no charge beam. And so like I got used to playing without a charge beam. So then in Super Metroid, there's a charge beam, but like I didn't hold it as often. And even in like I don't like my thought process isn't charge beam. My thought process is missiles, because I know missiles hurt things that my lasers don't.
Yeah, so I have a tendency of running around with the charge beam just on all the time, because in older Metroids, your missiles were like a finite thing. In this one, they just give them to you for fun. Especially if you hit... So we also didn't talk about this one, and added a melee counter, where you can... Yeah. If you time it right and the enemies kind of flash to do it, you hit them, and then as long as you hit fire immediately afterwards, it's a one-hit kill on these things, and they give you just a bunch of resources, health, and ammo. So like, it's
if you can get that counter, you get more resources than if you can't hit them.
Yeah, and it's awesome. But like I think I said it to you on Messenger when I was watching your Kraid fight. You got him to swipe at you twice and counter.
Uh-huh.
I never had him swipe at me. I never actually had the chance to counter him, so I had to go through more loops of that fight because I didn't get that like big burst of damage to him at all.
Yeah.
But I was so I don't know if you actually had it happen or not, because you were timing your jumps when he would shoot out the like the toes or whatever the fuck those things were supposed to be. Yeah. So you were like jumping and then jumping and then jumping on each of them, and then jumping onto the blue piece at the top and just wailing on him, hitting the counter if it came by, and like taking out that way. I kept fucking up the timing on the jumps and would get killed. So if you go through his pattern long enough down below, like shooting him in the stomach, eventually he covers his stomach, moves his hands, and just shoots all 3 out at once. And that knocks the blue magnetic thing down, and then you grab it and it takes you back up.
Yeah, I got that a few times, and usually what would happen with me is he would knock it down, I would ride it back up, he would then knock me down, but immediately shoot the spikes out of his belly to where I'd be able to jump back up again. I only hit his counter twice. Out of like the 5 times I fought him, I was only able to hit that counter twice. His counter was hard. And so, like, when it came to missiles, and my strategy for fighting Kraid was in Super Metroid, I knew, like I found out when playing Super Metroid, in order to get him to open his mouth, you had to hit him with a missile, and then you had to hit him in the mouth with missiles. So I found a corner, which is generally what you do in any boss in the old Metroids. You find a corner, you stand there, and you just blow him up with missiles. But in Super Metroid, you didn't have the freedom of aiming as you do in this one. So, like, that it was a little bit different, but, like, I was like, oh, probably if I hit him in the face with a missile, he'll open it. And, alright, I found the corner all the way at the end. It's the very last point. Just blow him up with missiles. He starts shooting, let go, and just shoot the lasers. Because, to me, charging was silly. Like, I was still able to break everything with the lasers. And I knew I was able to break everything with the lasers, like, without charging, than I was with just charging.
Oh, yeah,
So,
no,
like,
I mean, you definitely can. It was just the difference of one charge beam took out multiple things versus, like, having to spam the lasers when I was having no luck with the missiles. Like, every other fight so far, I've been able to spam missiles. It was just that one. There were too many moving pieces for me to effectively dodge, aim, and fire the missiles.
Yeah, there was a lot of moving pieces in that fight. My first boss fight, when you get the cloak, I didn't know that you could shoot missiles during the counter the first time I countered it. So I was just blowing them up with just a normal laser blast. Then I was like, wait. So then I was like, hold on, and I hit the missile button and started hitting it. Because I also didn't realize for the first few moments that I had to hit the shoot button. I thought the whole counter was just going to do its own thing. So the first time I fought it, I was like, and I hit the button by accident, and I shot, and I'm like, oh. And I kept hitting it, and I'm like, wait a second. And I hit the missiles near the end, hit them with 2 missiles. Then, like, the next time I fought it, because I died that fight, I did a full run of missiles at that point. Like, I didn't know that the counters could use the missiles until that fight. And then, I'm mad because I now want to figure out how to get the bombs before you fight Kraid, just so I can do that little hidden sneak.
The hidden sneak?
Where you blow up the sidewall, you go in, you blow that up, and it shoots you into his belly.
Oh, right, wait, so do you not have the bombs yet?
I do, but I didn't have them before I fought Kraid.
Oh yeah, but you can go get them ahead of time.
I know, I want to figure out how to get them ahead of time. Because I thought whatever you get from him, you needed.
No,
or like I can't remember how to get the bombs because it's just this map and this world is huge.
Yeah, I forget exactly what the pattern is, but you don't actually have to beat. Like, I forget what you get from Kraid 2, but whatever it is, you actually don't need to get the bombs. Mm-hmm. Like, you can actually, if you know where to go, you can go get them. It's just the game tries to encourage you to not do that because I think you have to go through the next Emmy zone to get to them.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was to get the bombs. But it's just like, I was like, when I found that out that you could just blow up the corner and just like kill him pretty much instantly when you get to phase 2, I was just like, oh, that's such a good idea. Because I thought that's what you had to do anyway.
Right, because like you tried to climb into his belly. Yeah,
my first fight, I turned into a ball, found out that you could jump in the ball form, tried to jump in his belly because I thought maybe you'd climb into it and shoot from inside. And no, none of it. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Also, the fact that you can jump as a ball, very cool.
I was shocked that you could do it because, like, my first few mazes with the ball, I was like, because I didn't have the bomb, I would come out of ball form, climb up, go back into ball form, instead of jump as the ball. I was like, oh, when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's weird, but cool.
Yeah, but I guess so you've taken out the first 4 Emmys, also.
Yeah.
I'm including the broken one.
Yeah.
And they're all very cool. I like how every Emmy has a different skill, let's call it. Like, there's something different about them. Like, the one's really fast. The one can, like, kind of contort itself into different shapes and everything. But all of the combat is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Which, that's a little bit of a bummer to me. Like, especially with the fast one. Like, I get it. Like, that one can't also be fast while you're trying to kill it because it takes way too long to break its face.
It was still fast, though.
But it stops at a certain... like, it doesn't stop, but it goes into that, like, creep when it gets close to you.
Well, no, I don't... You must not have noticed it. When you shoot them, they move slower no matter their speed. So that's what it was, is if you can get a good line of a shot on them as you're shooting them, they move slower.
Oh, no, I hadn't noticed that.
The fast one was moving slower because you were shooting it, not moving slower because you had the ability to kill it. If you had stopped shooting it, it would have picked its speed back up. And
I didn't catch that.
That's one of the harder parts that I have with the game is the aiming in that view, or the aiming in general, because my immediate thought is the stick just goes up and down. Because I forget that it is a full, 180 degrees that you could aim around.
Well, 360, you can aim all the way around.
Well, 360 degrees, yeah. So, I forget that you could aim all 360. So, first couple times I fought the Emmys, and I was trying to aim at their head, I was just hitting it up. Trying to just angle it up, not realizing I had to be on all the way to the left and angled up. It threw me off a little bit.
That does throw you off, and also just the Emmys move up and down a little bit. Like, they'll kind of, they'll come at you from, one angle, and then they'll raise their head, and you have to, move the beam and make sure it's always on their head, because it takes almost no time at all for all of the red damage that you've done to break the head to shrink back in and then be healthy again. I forget which Emmy it was, but there was one where the initial area isn't really set up properly to have a good stretch to shoot them. I must have spent 20 minutes, literally running in a circle. I wasn't dying, thankfully. I was just running in a circle trying to get them. And I thought it was just me not having the right angle or soon enough on it.
Yeah.
Until I realized if I just go upstairs, there's this long stretch upstairs. I just have to get them to follow me upstairs. Yeah. And then when I realized that, I finished it in one turn.
Yeah. But the Emmys are just are a really cool aspect to these games. I'm glad a lot more games are adding these little hunting creatures. They had it in Resident Evils and in Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3, and now they have it in Metroid Dread. I hope a lot more games that are trying to pick up this spookier horror vibe do pick up something like this, as long as it's not as tense as Resident Evil 2, but not as bad as it was in Resident Evil 3, because it was too scripted in Resident Evil 3.
Yeah, it's funny, I don't know why, but this game, all of the things I tend to not really enjoy, I'm not a big fan of the stalking and the very strict fail states. When you get caught by an Emmy, it is very hard to counter them. But it is very satisfying when you do counter it.
Yeah.
Or dying over and over again on bosses, trying to figure out what the right pattern and combination is to beat them. Normally that stuff, normally I would do it 4 or 5 times and then be all right, I'm done. I'll come back to this later. And then maybe I don't come back to it for a week. But in this case, it's I might put it down for an hour to go do something else, but then I come back and I try again 5 more times until I get it. Mm-hmm. And that countering those Emmys is so fucking satisfying.
Yo, yeah. I was able to do. There was a few times I did it while on stream, and I was just I gotta clip that. I gotta just share that to everyone. Show people that I'm a okay gamer. I can dodge the Emmys once every 100 times.
Yeah, I actually, the last Emmy I was fighting, I got very good at it, because that was the one that I kept looping. So, I got to the point where, I could counter that one almost every time. But, that's not the case for all of them, because, they get some cool abilities. Like I said, the one with the speed and stuff like that. I don't want to give away what some of the upcoming abilities are that they have, but they definitely make it more challenging. Mm-hmm. Just because, fuck those things. And I'm curious to see how they. So far, whenever one of them dies, you get one of your abilities from them, basically.
Yeah.
Seeing what these next two are, I'm curious what their thing is going to be. Mm-hmm. Because I think there's 7 of them altogether. Yeah. Right?
It's, 6 or 7, something like that, yeah.
So, do you think there's going to be Metroids in this?
Most likely.
So...
Most likely. There's going to be some semblance of Metroids.
Or is
somewhere.
Samus the Metroid?
I mean, technically, she is the Metroid.
I mean, story spoiler. They do tell us, and you're there too. Like the reason she is there is because she has Metroid DNA.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's because of Metroid Fusion, so it's not really a spoiler.
No. I just meant like the reason that she is on this planet is because her DNA, and because she killed all the Metroids in Metroid 2.
Well, the reason she's on this planet is she's the only one who's able to live through Parasite X. Because of Metroid Fusion, because they infused the Metroid genes into her to keep her alive. So, I'm just like, you're like, no, like they say that immediately, that she's the only one who can live on this planet. It's
Rich,
not a spoiler.
during the cutscene that we both got up to, like where you left off, the old Chozo dude, who I think that's the first time we ever actually get to see a Chozo is in this game.
Yeah, that's the first time we ever get to hear Samus talk.
That too. Samus has a voice. But he says that the one who confronts you when you first got there basically lured you there because you have the Metroid DNA and because he wants Metroids, but Samus killed them all. So like, yes, like the opening narrative of like why she thinks she's there is because of the X, but in reality, it's because she's part Metroid.
Well, yeah, and so look, here's the thing. I'm saying this now, not knowing anything beyond where I'm at. She's gonna get caught at some point. They're gonna extract Metroid DNA out of her. They're gonna recreate the Metroids throughout the game, and you're gonna have to fight Metroids and kill Mother Brain.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, because now I'm getting them confused. The Chozo created the Metroid to combat the X, right? Yes. Not the other way around.
Yeah, the Chozo created the Metroids to combat the X because the X was running too rampant, but the Metroids then became too powerful themselves, which forced the Chozo off the
SR-388 or whatever?
Yeah, from Metroid 1 and Super Metroid.
Oh, that's Zebus. Never mind. Sorry.
The SR-388, I believe, was the planet from Fusion, or yeah.
It's the one that from Metroid 2 also. Like that is the planet that the Metroids are like inhabiting. Because in Metroid 1 and 2, you're at the pirate base, and they have abducted Metroids. But,
in the original Metroid, you're on Zebus.
And same thing with Super Metroid.
And Super Metroid, yeah. And Metroid 2 is SR-388. Metroid Fusion is a space station.
Right. And you crash that space station into SR-388, I think.
Something like that.
It's been a long time.
It is. And honestly, we watched that, I watched that Metroid video from IGN last week, and but yeah, I'm having such a good time playing Metroid Fusion. Like, I want to play more, that I even at one point considered starting a new save just for me and not for stream, just to play it. Because, like, although, like, I'm sure my one viewer wouldn't care, like, I still, like, I want to have that consistency thing going on.
Which, like, I can understand that to an extent. But yeah, it's also, Drew, so I looked up time to beat. The time to beat that you said, like, you thought it was, like, half of the 12 hours that Richie said. It looks like just the main story is 8 hours, but that might not be, like, that might be the game clock, because the game doesn't actually track you when you die or stuff like that. So, like, I was where Richie is, and I was at 4 hours. And I've definitely put at least 4 more hours of game time in, but my clock probably only says, like, I'm sorry, my clock said I was at 4 hours. I've definitely played more than 4 hours. And my clock is probably still not that much further past that.
Okay, now they were talking about it on the Bombcast this week, and they were all saying that they had been hearing it was like 6 hours.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. So just going back, if you had a guide or had played it before, you could probably get through it in 6 hours. But being a Metroid game, they don't often tell you when you hit a dead end that you just need to blow shit up. And there are certain points where, like, shooting something doesn't necessarily reveal that it's destructible. Like, sometimes you literally just have to shoot missiles at every surface in the room before it'll show you, like, what sort of block it is to destroy. And, like, sometimes you're lucky and it is a missile block and it destroys it. Other times it's like, oh, it's a bomb or it's a speed, and you have to go, like, all right, well, I guess I need to go figure out how to get the fucking speed now. Yeah,
until you get, like, the super bombs, you're not gonna know what you need to break things unless you hit each individual one with a missile. Super Bomb will like reach the entire room. At least that's how it was in Super Metroid.
So there's there's an optional radar item you can get too that it uses your whole Aeon gauge, but it will show you any destructible blocks in a room. It won't show you what they're destructible with, but it'll just show them to you.
So just real quick, my stream for Monday night for playing Metroid Dread was 3 hours and 7 minutes. Give or take about 20 because of like my going live in screen and goodbye screen. So we're looking at 2 hours and 50 minutes. And then on Friday last week it was 2 hours and 50 minutes. So let's say 2 hours and 30 minutes. So we're looking at what? Close to 6 hours? Or
Yeah, about that.
yeah, close to 6 hours. My save file has me at 3 hours and 41 minutes.
Yeah, because that's all your deaths. Anytime you're in menus, for whatever reason, it doesn't track that, which is actually kind of cool. It's only tracking like your gameplay time. So that because Metroid's always had those like time-based things where the faster you beat the game, the better like your ending is.
Mm-hmm.
So this way, like if you're dying over and over again, that's not necessarily counting against you.
Yeah.
But I guess just real quick, I just want to say the movement stuff is really good in this game too. Once that first robot thing you fight after you talk to the old guy, remembering that I have that dash, that flash step ability, and using that in that fight, like that felt like such a good fight. Like just flash stepping over that guy when he charged, landing behind him, and just like bombarding him with missiles until he turned around, and then like wall jumping and double jumping and everything. I forget. Have you gotten to a double jump yet?
Double jump? No, I haven't gotten a double jump yet.
Eventually there's a double jump. It's not the gravity jump or what like that. You know that spinny one you got in like Super Metroid that lets you like stay in the air forever?
Yeah.
It's not that. It's literally a double jump. It's the worst double jump in history. It is so specific. Like it only happens when you're doing like a flip jump. So like you have to be jumping to like on an angle, and it only does a double jump at a very specific point. So you have to have it timed just right, or you just don't move at all. Yeah. Like you just fall. But otherwise, like the movement in this game is so good, and like running from the Emmys and like flash stepping and sliding under things and wall jumping up around stuff. Like it's actually fun running from those things and like trying to get away from them and hide and turn into a ball and like go invisible in like a little nook and hope they're not tracking you anymore.
Yeah.
And then they still are, so you hope you manage to counter them in time so that you can then run and hide on the other side while they're deactivated.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
Drew, do you like Metroidvanias, Drew?
I mean, I don't know that I've actually ever played one. I've never played either a Metroid or a Castlevania. Well, no, I've played the one DS Castlevania, Portrait of Ruin. I played that one.
I liked that one. That was a good one.
Dead Cells is kind of Metroidvania-y.
Well, I was gonna say, based on the games that you like, I think, and Rich, correct me if you think I'm off base here. I think you would really like Metroid Dread.
No, I really think you would too.
I probably would. I'm curious about it.
It's got so Dead Cells has really good movement, I think.
Yes.
It's got movement that reminds me of Dead Cells. The combat is very good. And you're going to die a lot because like any roguelike or any of those just like Souls games and stuff like that where like you just have to figure out patterns, but it's very forgiving with checkpointing. Like the old Metroids, when you died, a lot of times you checkpointed back at like the last save room. I don't even remember what happens if you die in the original Metroid.
You go back to the start of the area.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure. This one's very like if an Emmy kills you, you get taken to the outside of the last Emmy door that you went through. So as long as like you're strategic about like kind of going in and out of those rooms when you see those doors, you can kind of like set yourself up to like never be too far from a respawn point. But like if you get cocky and you think you're going to be okay, you skip that one door and then you die and then you go back to like an earlier one.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I think a lot of the stuff in that game is like right up your alley for like the sort of games you like to play.
According to Games Radar, Dead Cells is the number 1 Metroidvania game, followed by Hollow Knight at number 2. This was posted 23 days ago.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, so I had two quick news things about Metroid on here. Did you guys see Kotaku potentially unintentionally promoted emulating the game?
No.
Yeah, so Kotaku released an article basically saying, hey, this game is running really good on emulators already. And, like, encouraging people that emulators were good. To the point where they had to then release a, like, an update at the end of the article that said something... Come on, paste. The little thing, they posted an update. An earlier version of this story was understood by many readers to be a direct suggestion to illegally download this just-released game. We regret this interpretation. Kotaku believes emulation is a vital part of the world of gaming, not least when it comes to game preservation, while not directly encouraging anyone to break the law and download games they have not purchased. We believe our readers are intelligent adults capable of making such choices for themselves independent of us. Which is such a douchey way to say, like, oh yeah, no, like, we definitely wrote this article that seems like we're promoting people to just go steal this game, and we're not going to actually change it. Because, like, the whole article is just like, on the Switch it only runs like this, but if you run it on a good PC, it'll run at 4K.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very shitty.
It is. Yeah. For them to be like, oh, this is good on an emulator. Like, that's dumb. I don't go to Kotaku a lot, so yeah.
I don't at all. Like, I legitimately don't like Kotaku. Like, the two people that I did follow there that put out, like, useful information don't work there anymore. So there's no reason to go there. But this was popping up on, like, a lot of other places talking about it. But yeah, it was just such a shitty take. And the update they posted was on the 10th. So this thing was released sometime between when the game released on the 8th and when they updated it on the 10th. So, like, within days of the game releasing, they were basically saying, oh yeah, this game runs better on an emulator. So yeah, fuck that. The other news is actually good news. Metroid Dread is the highest grossing Metroid game in the UK so far. That's the only place that has put out metrics. But
I mean, what's the next one?
So Prime. So Metroid Prime is the second highest grossing, and it's actually still the fastest selling of the Metroid games. But this is only physical boxed copies. So it doesn't factor, it's not yet factoring in digital sales or worldwide sales. So odds are Metroid Dread, highest selling Metroid game of all time, like, by a large margin, because of how many, like, the last time a Metroid game was released, you couldn't buy it digitally. Like, I don't think you can buy Metroid Other M digitally.
No,
or any of the Metroid Prime games.
No. Other M was on
the Wii, right?
Wii, yeah.
Yeah.
And the others were on GameCube.
Yeah, so, like, well, no, Metroid Prime and... So there was the Metroid Prime trilogy was released on Wii, but still the Wii didn't do those sorts of downloads. Like, they had, like, the Virtual Console downloads.
Yeah.
So, like, when you factor that in, I imagine, like, this game is going to have sold, like, something stupid, which is weird because Metroid games don't historically sell all that well. Like, there are unfortunately those games where, like, everyone talks about liking them, but, like, when they release one, the sales generally aren't there.
Yeah.
But I think this one might be the change.
I mean, it's a great game, so I'm like, they did, I feel like they did really good at advertising it.
Yeah.
To make people want to buy it.
Yeah, like, I was seeing ads a lot of places for it, which was weird but good.
Yeah.
And now, you're playing it again on Monday or Friday?
Monday, unless I get to, like, any extra streaming on the weekend. Probably not.
Okay. So, depending on, like, how much you actually get to do on Monday, maybe we'll check in with you, see where you're at.
Yeah, for sure.
I might finish it, I might not. Like, I don't know how much game is left. But Drew,
yeah.
What is PGA Tour 2K21 like? Is it golf?
It's very golf. It's pretty. The golf is good. The menus suck absolute shit.
That sounds about right.
It's so bad at, like, getting you into a game with people.
Ugh.
It should not be nearly as frustrating as it is, because literally, so you can make an in-game party and then create a private match, but then you have to invite the people that were in your party again anyway.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Like, it's weird, and there's no way in the middle of a game to boot someone. So, like, we had an issue when we were playing the day before yesterday, I think it was, and my brother's one friend just, like, out on the 6th hole, like, was like, all right, I gotta go, and just left. Like, didn't quit out of the game, didn't turn his system off, just literally got up and left, and like we couldn't keep playing because there was no way for me to just go kick him out of the game.
That's some bullshit.
So we all had to quit and then start. We all had to quit. We all had to leave the party because I couldn't kick him out of the party after the game either. Make a new party and start a new game. Like,
wow. It plays well though?
Yeah. It uses analog sticks to shoot like most modern console golf games.
So like hockey?
Yes.
Okay.
Like,
I haven't played a golf game since golf on NES, I guess.
So yeah, you pull back to start your swing. When it hits the top, you push forward. And depending how straight your pulling forward is, determines how much it hooks or slices or not. And, you have control over backspin, and you can, like, bend it around a tree or whatever if you need to. The golfing is very good, and it looks really nice. It's just that menu shit is like, what the fuck?
Now, since this is PGA Tour, you actually get to play as actual golfers?
I don't know. It throws you right into creating a character. So, I don't know. We've all just been playing as created characters.
Because EA doesn't do golf games anymore, do they? Hasn't it been like 2 or 3 years?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I feel like they've also been going back to make a game. So this is based off a game, I'm pretty sure it was just called The Golf Club, which had all like user-created courses and whatnot. So there is a course creator in this as well.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, that could actually be really cool.
At some point, we might all make our own courses, and then there's a way to do like a custom like league, basically, that I'm going to guess keeps track of who won and whatnot. We haven't dove into it yet because like we kind of all just started playing over the weekend, so we wanted to play a little bit before we and decide if we actually liked playing it before we dove into making this private like season thing.
Because this was the free PS Plus game in October, right?
No, it's one of the free ones now.
That's
Wait, it is October. No, what am I thinking? So yeah. So that's why we were all like, hey, fucking get it.
Also, I looked it up. So EA has not done a PGA Tour game since 2015. That's when they did 1 year of Rory McIlroy. Before that, it was 2013 was the last Tiger Woods game. So it's been a while.
Okay.
But, it's golf.
Yeah, golf. But it is a good it is a fun game though. You said
yeah, it's fun. The one other complaint is on at least on like the real courses that are in there. When you're playing together, at least by default, you can all just be shooting at the same time. There is an option to turn on a turn order, so you would go one after the other. But I don't know, it goes faster when you're all just like, whatever, I can just go shoot, take my shot when I feel like it.
Man,
that does seem like a more fun way to do it.
No, you play golf game with turn order.
No, fuck that.
That's why I don't like golf.
You don't play a golf game with everyone. Like, that's how I play. I will play anytime I play Mario Golf, the new one. Even if it's by myself or with somebody, it's always 4 players. So it'll be me, someone, and comms if there's only 2, and we're taking turns. That's how you play a golf game. Because I'm sorry, I'm not playing a golf game I'm playing a golf game to hang out. I'm not playing a golf game to be like, I have to get it done quick and fast. This is why I hated a lot of the Mario Golf story mode, is because it was all fucking speed golf. No,
I mean,
every player hits one at a time. Each player gets a turn.
Yeah. How about instead of playing it taking 40 minutes to play one 18-hole course, you could play 3 in 40 minutes because you're not waiting 3 times as long to take a fucking shot every time.
I'd rather do the 1.
I'd rather play 3.
Like I said, I don't play a golf game to play a bunch of matches. I play a golf game to hang out with my bros.
But we're hanging out and playing more. Like, we're all getting to play the game more.
Yeah. I think
we're
it's
not
different
sitting
too
there doing jack shit.
Yeah, if you were playing like couch co-op, I think it'd be a little bit different. But like playing online and then just sitting there staring at the screen while other people go, like, that's less fun.
you're gonna be on like a Discord call or something, Cap.
No, I understand
Yeah,
that, but still, that is less fun. What you're sitting in a room by yourself on the phone. Like,
Yeah.
I would also rather. I don't want to play a golf game at all. I think golf is fucking abysmally boring. But if I had to play a golf game, I'd rather everyone just go at the same time.
No, that's
Richie,
not
you're wrong.
That's not golf. Like,
Yeah.
it's not golf.
You're right, 'cause it
one
sounds
person
fun.
at a time. One person at a time. Like,
But then you could take your fucking sweet ass time if you played with us, but fucking we're hammering our 3 shots out.
but see, that's the thing. Like, it takes away part of the sort of strategy and idea. Like, if I'm not able to watch you play, I'm not able to see what you did. I'm not able to better myself by seeing how other people play.
But why the fuck should you get an advantage?
No, I'm not
randomly?
I'm not saying not I'm seeing you play and you get the better line. It's I'm seeing you how you hit the ball in this hole over how I hit the ball in this hole, and maybe that changes up my play style and it makes me better or it makes you better. Like, that's how golf is. It's trying to figure out how each hole is played, seeing how other players play the hole, and finding the best route together. So then whoever hits it the best. Like I don't see golf as 100% competitive. I see golf as something you work together with to try to figure out the best route to get there. Like, there's a competition. there is a competition to golf, but you work. It's like, what's the line you see? Like, especially when it's amateur golf like us, it's what do you see? What's the best route? What do you think? What do I think? Oh, how are you playing this hole? Are you stopping it early? You going over? How does everyone play it? It adds to the strategy, and it adds to the, oh, I never thought to do that. Maybe next time I do this hole, I do that. And maybe next time I play, I drop a stroke on that hole. Like, that's where I come from when it's like everyone plays. Everyone gets their turn. Yes, I'm first, so I'm going to hit it the hardest, but then I'm not going to see how everyone else does it, and I'm not going to be able to advantage off that. But maybe somebody hits it further than me because they found a better way to hit the ball, and now I get to take advantage off of maybe where things are going to lie. Like, it's just, that's golf, is watching others play.
But at the same time, like, I'm not other people. I'm not going to hit it how other people are going to hit it. I don't want to hit it how other people are going to want to hit it. I want to hit it how I want to hit it. Like,
also, it's a video game.
Also that. Like, different when, like, actually playing golf. But, like, so, let me get back to the thing I was actually going to complain about. On most of the courses, once you've finished your hole, like, it puts it on a weird camera angle showing nothing. And, like, you don't actually see what the other people are doing. Like, there's no spectator view. The last 2 we were playing, I don't know if they were created courses or whatever, but at least when you finished your hole, like, the camera that it was left on was looking at the hole. And, like, kind of panning across the green, but you could see the hole so you could watch the people's putts go in or whatever. But yeah, it was weird. Like, maybe I'll turn on the turn order and see what it shows when you're not shooting, but I have a feeling based on what it shows, like, you're going to see, like, absolutely nothing, and it's going to be stupid.
I mean, if it doesn't show the other players, then yeah, play it all at once. But if it shows the other players and how they play, like...
I don't think it will, honestly.
If it doesn't, that's poor game design. Very poor game design.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. Beyond, like, I don't know.
Think of, like, you don't really play Smash Bros, but if, say, I were to die in a 4-player match in Smash Bros, and the game, instead of showing me the rest of the match, just focuses on a certain corner of the map. That's bad game design. You show the match. Because I died first doesn't mean I don't get to watch the rest of the match, and that's where I'm coming from with, like, just because I hit my ball all 3 times doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to watch everyone else hit their ball 3 times. It's everyone should get their turn, everyone should get their spotlight. Like, that's if I got a really good hole, I'm gonna want everyone to have or get a really good shot. I'm gonna want everyone to have seen that.
I mean, so I did yesterday. I got a hole in one on one of the holes. And I kind of wish ever, like...
Exactly!
But at the same time, like, I don't know now if now knowing everyone was watching what I was doing that I get that hole in one.
You don't know, but you might have, and then everyone would have seen it. Like, I have so many clips on my Switch from, like, the game stealing, like, a hole from Anthony. Or, like, just, like, the ball rolling poorly for one of the computer players. It's just like, man, you wouldn't believe this if I didn't show you. Like, I have one clip that I know no one would have believed if I hadn't shown it. It's up on my Twitter, I believe, of the ball circling the hole 5 fucking times before it rolls away.
Jeez.
On Mario Golf. Like, Anthony would not have believed that if he had not seen it by watching my game. Because we have stroke play.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about the golf, Drew?
Nah, we're gonna definitely be playing more. Richie, you should definitely download it. And I think it's limited to 4 players at a time, but I don't 100% know.
It's most likely limited to 4 players at a time because that's golf.
Yeah, but like not always 4 of us are always on, so like download it and like play with us.
I have it downloaded. I haven't turned on my PlayStation 5 since for a while. At least a month since I beat Returnal. I haven't turned on my PS5.
You need to use that thing. You spent a lot of money on it.
I mean, I've used it. I use it when I use it. Like, I haven't been playing a lot. There's not a lot of games right now that I want to play on it.
There are starving children out there who can't get their hands on a PS5. You play that PS5.
Their last problem should be worrying about a PS5 if they're starving.
Oh, jeez. I guess that's true. So I went and I saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
What'd you do with the whole rest of your day?
Yeah, it's only 90 minutes.
That's a short movie.
Damn.
I would expect to. I would have thought this would have been like a made-for-TV movie with that length.
Yeah, like honestly, it wasn't great. Like, it wasn't awful. But it wasn't as good as the first one. And I also realized while watching this that like, while I remember enjoying the first one, I don't remember the first one all that well. But like, this is honestly like, it is too short. As weird as that is, like, there's just not enough time to properly delve into anything, so everything just seems kind of rushed. Mm-hmm. And they never really give Woody Harrelson a chance to be like a fun Cletus Cassidy Carnage.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't recommend. So we went to see this on Monday because we were off. I didn't realize it was like Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day sort of thing. So I was very confused when there were a few other people in the theater. But yeah, we went. AMC theaters are 30% off if you go before like 3:00 on any day, including weekends. So we went to an early matinee on Monday and paid like $8 a ticket, and it was great. But the movie was just kind of a letdown. So I definitely wouldn't recommend doing the theater for that one. Maybe wait, if you want to see it, wait until it comes out on Blu-ray or streaming or whatever.
I haven't even seen the first one yet, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The first one is actually good. Like, I legitimately enjoyed the first one. Like, Tom Hardy was fun in it. Like, all the other actors in it were good. I can't think of anyone. Michelle Williams is in it. She's very good in it. Mm-hmm. But, like, this second one, it's too short with too many pieces. Mm-hmm. And that definitely hurt it a lot. Because it's basically, the only good parts are kind of, like, the comedy bits with Venom. Where, like, Venom is very quippy and it's funny. But not in, like, a Spider-Man quippy way, in, like, he's an alien and says shit because he just wants to eat brains.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it had its moments. When Venom finally confronts Carnage at the end of the movie, and he hasn't seen Carnage, and he walks in all venomed out, and then immediately shrinks back into Eddie when he sees Woody Harrelson turn into Carnage, and, like, and Eddie's left there to argue with himself over why Venom, like, hid. And it's just like, that's a red one. We can't fight a red one. We're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, just like silly stuff like that was fun. But like, they should have added like an extra half hour to this movie. Like, just giving it a little bit more just to like flesh out the characters and the story a bit more and not have it feel so condensed and rushed. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
It's not often you say this movie needed to be longer.
Yeah. Like, but you'd think 90 minutes, like, this could have been a real good, tight 90-minute movie. And there was just, they tried to do too much in not enough time. Mm-hmm. And, like, the characters suffered for it.
Yeah.
Like, There's plenty of like funny moments, but like the overall story just isn't there. It does have a very good mid-credit scene. Like, actually, Rich, since you haven't even seen the first one, do you mind if I spoil the mid-credit scene? Because it's a big deal.
I mean, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Spoilers right now for the mid-credit scene of Let There Be Carnage. Venom is officially in the MCU universe.
Yeah, and I knew this. I knew that this was going to happen. Just as much as Morbius is also in the MC universe. Because Michael Keaton's in it.
So they have not confirmed that he is Vulture. That's the only thing holding that back so far. But they, Tom Holland, so it's not really Tom Holland. At the end of the movie, it appears that there may be some multiverse stuff going on.
Uh-huh.
During the credit scene, they are in like a hotel room at night, and then Venom's basically telling Eddie about like other universes, and all of a sudden like everything flashes and it's daytime. They are in somebody else's hotel room, and the scene from the end of Far From Home where J. Jonah Jameson is revealing Peter Parker's identity to the world is playing on the television. So like this definitely, and from what I read afterwards, it was up to the wire with whether or not they were going to be able to tie the movies together.
Yeah.
So like the deal was basically signed off on at the very end.
So probably something that happens at the end of, or how No Way Home wraps up, will feed into how this is part of the MCU.
Yeah, it's just weird because like where Eddie shows up with like at the end is at the end of Far From Home.
Yeah.
Like that's the weird thing. That's why I'm wondering if, I don't think we know what the timeline for like where Doctor Strange 2 falls. Do we?
Not necessarily, not really, but also we don't know, you don't know necessarily if it was that day when it was reported, or if that was like a recast or re-air, or
that's true,
like a clip or whatever. Like I could be reaching, but basically, if you're saying what you're saying, like there's a Flash, and then he's in the MCU, which means something happens at Far From Home or No Way Home, and Carnage or Venom becomes part of the MCU. Yeah,
which that's cool. Like even if I honestly don't think he's going to be like part of the MCU like proper. Like he's not going to end up in like a fucking Iron Man movie. Not that there's going to be an Iron Man movie, but you know what I mean. But like just the fact that like there can be a Spider-Man and Venom thing at some point. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we get something in December. Maybe he gets the black suit at the end or something like that.
Maybe, yeah. Like there's no way to know, and with all the delays from stuff, I think just the actual timeline is different than the release stuff. Like, because we know WandaVision is basically right after Endgame. Like, WandaVision basically happens before Far From Home, because Far From Home is like months later.
Yeah.
So it's presumable that Doctor Strange also happens sometime before No Way Home, maybe? Because Doctor Strange 2 is supposed to come out before Spider-Man.
Was it?
I'm 99% sure that is the case.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, Venom, if anything, like look up the end credit scene for Venom. That was the most interesting part. I have one last very quick thing for you guys. I'm not going to get into it. I think both of you should watch Pura Ori. It's Puraore, Pride of the Orange. It's a hockey anime about a bunch of like 15-year-old girls who are originally from the embroidery club that decide to make a hockey team. And I've only seen the first episode so far because that was the only one that was released. But it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And the animation, they show a little bit of actual hockey at the beginning of it. The animation actually looks like it's going to be really good for like the hockey parts of it. And yeah, it's fucking hockey anime. That doesn't happen all that often.
No.
But yeah, that's all I have. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
No, not right now. I don't think I have anything else.
All right. Well, in that case, let's get the fuck out of here. Another quick reminder that if you want to follow along with the book club, in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about Saga Volume 1 and 2. You can get it on Comixology with a free trial if you Comixology Unlimited. But otherwise, if you want to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. If you can't support us there with your dollars, though, you can support us by going to your favorite podcast platform. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, all those fun places. Rate us, review us, subscribe to us. Those things all help a whole bunch. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/OneQuestOnline or at @1_Quest on Twitter and Instagram. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/OneQuestVideo, and you can always send us emails to social@one-quest.com. Otherwise, though, we'll be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.